I'd like to call this Town of Cedar Lake Planning Commission special public meeting and work session, January 6, 2021 to order. After the pledge, I request everyone please take a moment of silence in lieu of the bit of chaos we saw at the Capitol today on the news. Mr. Cardigan.
Pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Roll call, please.
Present.
Here. Present.
John Foreman. Richard Sharp.
Here.
Gary Wilkening.
Here.
Robert Carnahan.
Here.
John Oliphant.
Here.
David Austin.
Present.
Tim Kubiak. Here. Wilmer. Present.
All right, thank you. This special public meeting, we need to start with nomination and appointment of officers. Do we have any nominations for the president?
I nominate Mr. Jerry Wilkening. I'll second it.
We have a motion by Mr. Sharp and a second by Mr. Capora. Roll call, please.
Heather Duffauer. Yes. Chuck Becker.
Yes.
Gary Wilkening.
Yes.
Robert Carnahan.
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes.
John Foreman. John Capora.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Nomination and appointment of officers for vice president. Anybody like to make a motion?
Motion, John Kapora.
I'll second.
Motion by Chuck Becker, second by Heather. Roll call, please.
Who was the nominee?
John Capora.
Heather Duffauer. Yes. Chuck Becker.
Yes.
Gary Wilkening.
Yes.
Robert Carnahan.
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes.
John Capora.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. The next item is retention of services, legal services. Would anyone like to?
President,
Yes, sir.
Rick and I talked about this. This has been handled by the town council.
Oh,
Both this and the master service agreement for the Burke firm, which was adopted Tuesday night.
so the next two line items we can skip over.
You couldn't pay for us anyway. That's the reason you don't do it. You have no money.
Yeah, you're right.
Just saying.
Okay. Item number 3, appointments. Appointment to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Who's up on that? John or I? John Capora is up. Would anybody like to make a motion regarding appointments to the BZA?
So moved for John.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Carnahan, second by Heather Dessauer. Roll call, please.
Heather Duffauer. Yes. Chuck Becker.
Yes.
Gary Wilkening.
Yes.
Robert Carnahan.
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes.
John Capora.
Yes.
Motion carries. Excellent. Same but different, John.
Congratulations.
Same but different.
Pardon me?
Said same but different. All right, I'd like to take this part of,
Don't forget Unsafe.
oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Please.
Appointments to the Unsafe Building Department. Do we have any nominations for Mr. Sharp? I'm sorry. Rick Sharp. Do we have any motions?
I'll make that motion.
To appoint Richard Sharp to the unsafe building.
Okay, a motion for Mr. Sharp, a second by Mr. Capora. Roll call, please.
Heather Duffauer. Yes. Chuck Becker.
Yes.
Gary Wilkening.
Yes.
Robert Carnahan.
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes.
John Capora.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Congrats.
Thank
All right, the public hearing portion, we need to discuss the agenda item, Park and Recreation Impact Fee Amendment. I will run through this before the explanation. Mr. Oshins, your reviews?
The reason for the special public meeting tonight is to conduct a public hearing on the renewal of the town's park and recreation impact fee. There's a statutory process for that. Public hearing is required by the Plan Commission following review, recommendation, and study by the Park Impact Fee Advisory Committee, which has concluded its work together with Rick and staff and Tagi Arshami from the Arsh Group. So you have before you tonight that opportunity. Proper publication has occurred in each 2 newspapers timely. I have proofs of publication and conducted that, so public hearing may be conducted. If I may suggest that you obtain a bit of explanation from either Mr. Arshami or Mr. Everly, and then open the floor to the public, conduct your public hearing.
All right. As far as the building department comments, Mr. Everly, did you want to explain that to us in a simplistic form?
Sure. I'll let Tagi handle the heavy work, but
Okay.
this is basically a renewal of the park impact fee. This will be our second renewal. Originally adopted it in 2011, renewed it in 16, and now we have to renew it in 21. Required that you do it every 5 years. So between Tagi and a lot of us at the staff level, kudos to Jill for the most part, because she provided a lot of the background information. But Don and Tim and I contributed too, and others have helped. But it's just, I believe the fee started out in 2011 at just over $900. It went to $1,215 in 2016, which is where it's at today. And Tagi will bring you up to date on what the recommendation of the advisory committees was to you. You need to understand, Plan Commission needs to understand that it is free to do what it wants with that advisory committee's recommendation. You can make your own independent recommendation to the town council. You can concur with theirs. And then the town council, when it gets in their lap in a couple of weeks, they can do whatever they want with both of those recommendations. They can make their own independent decision as well, or they can concur with whatever one of the 2 bodies recommends to them. But it's a fee that we collect to try, that is to be used for improvements to our parks that is generated and necessitated by the growth in the community. And as you know, sitting here at the Plan Commission, you know how this community's been growing for several years now and looks to be growing well into the future. So with that, I would defer to Tagi to give you the nuts and bolts of the process.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Tagi Oshami. I'm the principal for the firm of Arsh Group. We are a planning consulting firm in Marysville. And we have been doing this type of work for several years, and we did the last impact fee. Just for those of you that may not be familiar with the impact fee is a sort of an effort by the town to ask for equitable contribution of newcomers to the town, new residential development, to pay for the park services that the town provides to all, everybody that comes into the town. It is not too dissimilar to when you go and get a tapping fee for water or your sewer. That is the similar sort of concept. In the case of parks impact fee is a little bit more complicated. We have to go through several processes and analysis as well as calculations to determine 2 things, basically. What is your total number of service units, that is households that benefit from the park services in the town, and what is your total assets? And we divided these 2 numbers together and we get what's called an equitable development fee, and that is per unit cost of services that you provide to all householders in the community. In this round, and I assume you have this little handout, in this round, our calculation shows that
Todd, you can hold on just a second. It's on page 73 on your iPads, ladies and gentlemen.
73.
Yeah, so it's way down at the bottom, but you do have it on your iPad. I'm sorry, Todd.
No problem.
Let me also say that, just so everybody's, and for the edification of the audience as well as the members here, this is a fee paid with a new construction building permit and strictly residential. This does not apply to commercial. So when you come in for a commercial building permit, you don't pay this fee. It's just on residential new building permits. It's not a fee that's paid by members of it that are already members of the community, as Tagi mentioned. And I think he mentioned, or he's probably getting to, this fee the new fee doesn't go into effect until 6 months from the date that the council approves it, which we anticipate will be January 19th. So 6 months from that date, the new fee would take effect. Between now and then, the current fee would remain in place. So I'm sorry, Tagi, go ahead.
No problem. Great, it should be then I don't have to talk too much. So the number of service units that we calculated was added up. If you get to your handout, it's number 5. It shows 4,855 units of service, park service unit, that's officially called, and your total asset is about 8,682,000. That is in fact, that is it's very good number for a community of 14,000, and that's, you got to be congratulated for your efforts to develop your park system. So we divide these two numbers, we get a park service unit of $2,015, and that is for this round. This was more than last round. And so the advisory committee met twice, discussed these in very much detail. We worked with them, and the second meeting actually was like 3 hours sitting here and talking all these numbers. And they felt that they should recommend not the full 100% rate, rather than 87% rate. Previously, 5 years ago, when they did this plan, they recommended a 65% rate, which was $1,215 per house and for housing units. And they looked at this. The way they came up with the formula was looking at surrounding communities. They were very concerned that this community doesn't sort of overexpose in terms of the fees. And I want to thank Jill. She brought in all kinds of data and show what the houses costs are and what the fees are. And they made a unanimous decision as to what that rate is and how that translates, and in effect, it translated to $1,762 per new housing. As Rick indicated, it is, if it is approved by the town council and it is in the agenda, it will go into effect 6 months after approval date. The process is you are here as a planning commission. This would be considered a land use effort. So you're amending the comprehensive plan by approving this. You're also certifying that this is part of the comprehensive plan and is in compliance with your comprehensive plan. And so the next step after here will go to the town council. Be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Heather, do you have any questions?
No, sir, I don't.
Seems pretty thorough. Chuck, any questions?
No.
Mr. Kapora?
No.
Sure. No. Don Oliphant?
No.
Okay, so it's an increase of, hang on. What's the increase? 5 what?
547.
547. That's the increase.
Mhm.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Carnahan?
I'm just going to repeat, Randy asked how you came up with doing the 87%, if you would explain that to him. And
Sure. When we do these things, we have already set up our system in a way that one of those things, we discuss options. State law allows different forms of calculations and charging this fee. So there are options that we discuss, and there is option, what's called the graduated rate, for example, that you start the first year at certain percentage and then go up every year over the course of the 5 years. And there are options that you may have fees for different types of housing units. And if you look at one of those tables, that we have a comparison of different communities, what they have, you see that, for example, in Valparaiso, they have for a one-bedroom apartment versus a condo versus a single family. So that option is also available. As I mentioned, the last committee chose to go on a percentage type of the calculated rate. And this committee felt comfortable with that, what they felt that when they saw what other communities are charging around here, they felt that the town could benefit from a larger fee. We're heavily growing. There's tremendous amount of development, and as you're aware, there is a lot of subdivision that's going on. For the last 5 years, we have had over 1,000 new housing units, and that is tremendous amount of impact on the services. So, and in the full document, it shows that despite this fact, you still have a lot of catch up to do to get to the national standards. And, but nonetheless, you also have to look at the economic impacts of the fee. So that's how they decided.
And how many members were on the committee?
5 members committee, and the council appointed all 5 of them. And all of them are professional. 3 of them are from the real estate development field, and so it was a pleasant surprise that they had a unanimous decision as to the rate.
Well, it sounds to me like it's quite thorough.
Yes.
So,
Well done.
Yeah,
well
sounds
vetted.
like it.
Okay, all right. Again, does anyone have any questions about this?
Not this.
Again, it was quite thorough. Don, any comments, any questions?
Nope.
Okay. Mr. Eberly, is there a schedule of time that this money has to be used for park and recreation projects as it's accumulated? Does it have to be?
Not a specific time frame in which it has to be spent that I'm aware of. We've got, as I think you're aware of, Mr. President, we've got over $14 million worth of projects identified in the most recently completed park master plan. I'm not saying that all of those would qualify for the park impact fee, but some of them certainly would. Don's working on a couple of projects for us now that are certainly eligible. Those are trail projects, one of which we're seeking federal funding, but could also be funded by the impact fee. Jill has worked in the past on the picnic shelter at the Bartlett Wahlberg Park. So we've got a number of projects identified for this money. We have a lot more projects than we have money to do the projects with, but we've got the balance of what, Jill, in that fund, about 1.1 million? 1.1 million is in the existing fund.
So, oh.
Minus 90,000. As of last night, we had
Additional,
additional permits come in right in the last week of the month. So we're in the 1.1.
it's in the 1.1 million range. Yeah.
Okay, Don, are there any, Tim, Don, are there any like shovel-ready projects? I know this
Trail
last,
project would be the closest.
I know this
It would
last,
be the closest.
Yeah, well, yeah, Bartlett.
Yeah,
Wahlberg.
Bartlett, yeah.
And John Foreman has suggested putting a wrought iron fence around the town grounds here to get rid of the cyclone fence.
well, I just, I know this 2020 has been a little slow for some of these things. So I just didn't know if there was anything, ready to go.
Not immediately from a larger perspective. Founders Creek would be your biggest one, but that's still only at a concept level right now.
We have a meeting later this month, don't we, Don, on the possible funding of that?
That would be Thursday and then again next week at Energy TPC.
Right.
So
So,
Okay.
things that we can spend the money on, Mr. President, yes.
Yeah, well, some of those numbers I think were thrown around last night and it got a lot of attention. So that's why I was asking. So, thank you, Taggy. All right. Any other building department comments regarding this item? Everybody's good for right now? Okay. Any remonstrators? Come to the podium, state your name and address. If you had any questions about this increase in the impact fee. Anyone? Okay, no remonstrators. Any commission discussion? It's pretty straightforward. Okay.
Yeah, I think they did a great job, very thorough job.
Yeah. It sounds to be very thorough. Okay. Would anyone, yes, Mr. Rashi?
There needs to be approval or consideration for approval of a resolution recommending the rate to the town council.
Okay.
Town council will consider your recommendation by resolution and either approve or disapprove an ordinance.
So there needs to be a motion made that would include recommend a resolution to the town council for or against the increase.
May I read the title into the record?
Certainly.
Town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana Plan Commission, we need a resolution number. It's a resolution recommending a reestablishment ordinance for a town park impact fee, approving a modified park impact fee for the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, recommending adoption and enactment of such reestablishment ordinance by the Cedar Lake Town Council in conformance with applicable law and all matters related thereto. The recommendation in the body is to send the recommendation that you heard tonight on the record to the town council in the amount identified based upon the park impact fee study report that is the basis for it.
All righty. Do we need that resolution number?
We have to develop it for.
Oh, okay. All right. Still need
The
it.
resolution number for the plan commission would be 2021-01.
2021-01.
Good number.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I guess, again, someone would like to make a motion regarding recommended resolution to the town council regarding this item.
I would like to make a motion that Mr. Austin's resolution reading be added to the minutes and that the amount be $1,762 as proposed by the committee.
We have a motion by Mr. Carnahan for a favorable recommendation to the resolution. Do we have a second?
Mr. President,
Second.
Yes, sir.
can we get a clarification, Bob, to the minutes or to the meeting?
He said to enter what you read into the minutes.
And
And to
the
send it.
amount suggested by the committee.
Okay. May I suggest that you add that the resolution be appended to the minutes because it contains the recommended ordinance with
That
the
it,
impact
the
fee
resolution
study
be amended to the
Appended.
appended
to the minutes of this meeting.
as of this meeting.
Correct.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second it.
Second by Mr. Kapora. Roll call, please.
Heather Dethar,
Yes.
Chuck Becker,
Yes.
Robert Carnahan,
Yes.
Richard Sharp,
Yes.
John Capora,
Yes.
Jerry Wilkie.
Yes, motion carries. Excellent.
Adjourn the public meeting.
Yes. That concludes the public portion of this meeting. We're going to get into the January 6th work session. Old business, Hanover Community School, Lot 1's one lot subdivision rezone, PUD amendment, Petitioner is requesting a rezone from agricultural zoning district to a community business B2 planned unit development zoning district and a planned unit development amendment. Hello, Mr. Tringa.
Good evening, Don Torringa with Torringa Engineering. I also have Unsafe, who is with Stillman Corporation. We have discussed this previously. The drawing is up there. I don't know how many people in the audience would like to see that.
Would anyone like to see the drawing of Hanover? School? I think we've, anybody up here want to see it?
It's on your,
Yes.
I think it's on your
Got it right there.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
You can slide up here and look at it, or take it back there and look at it if you want.
Also,
It's
a
okay.
colorized copy behind Don over there that they might help out too. After the December meeting in which we attended, we worked very hard, and the consultants all worked very hard to answer the letter that was put together by the town engineer. We responded to all of the comments. Whether or not they have been approved or not, I can't say. However, we are in a position now where we're asking for approval of the plan of development and approval of the site plan, so that the schedule that has been put together by the Stillman Corporation will be followed what is followed.
All right. Mr. Oliphant.
we are currently looking at it. We got it on the 29th. Our offices were closed, so I picked it up today effectively.
Okay. Is there anything there that kind of,
No, I mean, I've probably gotten through 75% of it now, and a lot of the stuff on the plan sheet has been addressed, on the plan set's been addressed. I'm just kind of getting into the stormwater calcs now.
Okay.
So,
Mr. Eberly, in your thoroughness on this item, is there anything that you have any concerns or comments about?
No, actually, we had a staff meeting with Dion a few weeks ago. Asked him to talk with Don about identifying any of the, as you know, this is a PUD rezoning request. So the PUD needs to identify in its plan and or in its ordinance, which includes a contract between the town and the petitioner, those ways in which the project deviates from our typical standards. And we were concerned that on one set of drawings, Don, we didn't see the peaks of the roof, for example. So if in the PUD you are going to exceed the maximum allowable height of a building in that district, you have to identify it. If you don't, and you come back later for a building permit for a building that's going to be higher than what the district allows, you've got to go back, you've got to go before the BZA essentially for a height variance. So they provided a new set of drawings showing all of those building sizes, building heights, things of that nature, and they were all well within the requirements of the underlying zoning district. So, Jill, I don't know if you have anything you wanted to add to that, but from a staff standpoint, we feel that the plan is compliant and responsive to the list of items that is required to be submitted for in a PUD. We didn't, of course, have the engineering, and we don't need to be. We're not engineers, so that's for Don to look at. So I think from a staff level perspective, we're satisfied with the drawing. Joe?
Okay. Mr. Kubiak, any concerns?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay. Well, I guess in 2 weeks, we'll be voting on this, so,
well, I think we'll get there.
okay.
Has Neil reached out to you about water sewer
Not at
accounts?
all, no.
Neil was gone for the same time period, so
Right.
he's just
Engineering vacation.
We're not doing,
Yeah.
we're not doing that next year.
No.
No problem.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Do any commissioners have any questions?
No.
No,
Sounds good right now.
Yes, sir.
I liked what they put on page 4 of their package here, that the proposed Hanover Middle School campus design is to benefit the town of Cedar Lake. The campus will add to the community as a whole creating an environment in which young couples will see Cedar Lake as a progressive community to live and raise their children. So I like that when I saw that in there.
Generally, that's the vicinity of where the elementary school is going in. It's all new young couples. So,
Right.
Well, Mr. Tringa, as I mentioned earlier, this is quite nice to have all this detail.
thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Roshan.
a couple of items legally. We don't have a PUD contract yet.
Okay.
I haven't been able to draft the ordinance as a consequence of not having that. And as we will discuss later this evening with the YMCA project, that contract, probably in the case of this school, is not the same. It's a different kind of project, but that's the basis of the understanding of the contract zoning that we're entering into. So
Okay.
I don't have
Miss-
that.
So is that who's doing that? Do you
That's a
know?
good question.
It's a great question. You got great lawyers at Newby Lewis, Kaminsky Jones.
I never heard of them.
They're the school's attorneys.
That's something that-
Nick Otis.
Okay,
Nick's been here a couple times on this
Mhm.
project, as a
Well-
matter of fact.
didn't know that.
2 weeks,
Sanitation.
that shouldn't be a problem for, let's have something like that in a week.
We're really accustomed to short notice these days.
Yeah,
Not getting used to it, but we're
It
accustomed
wasn't
to it.
something that I was even aware of.
no, well, that's what a work session's for. We're trying to
That's what
make
our
sure.
zoning ordinance says.
I read the zoning ordinance, I followed it word for word, I didn't
Really?
see that in there.
Follow it word for word. Go
I
back
thought
and
I
look
did.
at Article 11.
I'm not an attorney.
I know you're not. You said you read
Yeah.
it word for word, Don.
Look,
The
look,
part that I put together, word for word, I don't know.
All right, I see
I
Dan's
assume
writing.
that was something that was done by you.
You got it.
So
what's
the request, Mr. Otis?
Austin.
To read Article, no,
Otis
he's talking
is
about
a-
Nick
Oh, from
Otis.
Mr.
To
Otis.
read Article 11 of the town zoning ordinance pertaining to PUDs and the contract that's required.
Needed in 2 weeks.
Sooner than that.
Well,
Well,
Dave needs it sooner than that.
That's required before we can approve anything.
Couldn't even consider it because I won't bring you the ordinance. I won't bring anything to you without that. That's the guts of this.
It would be a huge contingency, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
This won't be
bad
hard.
contingency.
Bad contingency.
You're going to refer to all the drawings and
Of non-starter.
schematics and all the sheets, basically.
All right. Does the building department have any other comments? No? Okay. Commissioners,
No, sir.
any thoughts, concerns? Okay. I guess at this point, we're
Okay, thank you.
good.
Do what we can to take care of that, as I said, I'm not aware of it.
Well,
I honestly thought I would follow
2
it.
weeks, 2 weeks is a nice stretch of time to get going on it, but okay. The other item here is Hanover School. Petitioners requesting preliminary plat for a 1-lot subdivision. Mr. Austin, is that in order?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Don, any comments?
I just got this information today.
Okay. All right. So you're gonna look that over?
Yep.
Okay. And there'll be Don to Don emails?
I mean, it's a
Questions or
similar
concerns?
plan to what they came in 5 years ago with, pretty much.
We're talking about the high school now,
High
right?
school, yeah.
I have these, if anybody could,
Certainly.
It is a site plan, by the way, Mr. President, not a-
I said, that's not.
You're doing a site plan for the high school.
Yeah.
Project, not a plan.
yeah. One lot subdivision. Copies, I don't know, they're probably not gonna scratch. As Mr. Alphon said, in 2014, with Hutton and Hutton being the architects at the time. We approached the town and we asked for an addition to the parking lot that you see on the drawing to the right-hand side. Parking lot is for the baseball and soccer purposes. A sidewalk that runs all the way across the campus, across the back of the high school. That sidewalk will be 10 feet wide, and it will have a fence positioned down the middle of it, so that, and with gates, so that the people coming in and out of the athletic facilities can be regulated. There is a athletic building that is being proposed next to the soccer field that is immediately north of the school. And then some sidewalks from the football field to a new parking lot that is on the far west side of the school, which is property that the school just recently purchased. In addition, there will be practice fields, softball field, a soccer, football, and a baseball practice field. We have 2 stormwater detention ponds and some modifications to the existing stormwater detention pond that's out there. What you have, the first page is an overall view. The second, third, and fourth pages are blow-ups that give you a little bit more detail. You can index if you can read that with the hexagons and what they represent. As Don said previously, we did present this in 2014. At the time, the parking lot on the far east side was considerably larger. There was some slight modifications. I think they had 2 soccer practice fields. But in general, it's pretty much the same plan as before. Now, I had a long discussion with Jill today in regards to this, and unbeknownst to me, we were under the impression we didn't need to do a 1-lot subdivision plan in the development. But apparently now the property is subdivided. However, correct me if I'm wrong, we're there.
Yes, actually, Don, Jill and I had a chance to meet late this afternoon after you and she talked, and I don't believe you need to do a 1-lot subdivision. You can do it if you'd like, but what you're doing on the west side of the property is ball fields,
There's no building.
bleachers, no buildings at all. You can do it within the zoning that's already there. So you're not constructing any structures at all. So you could just do site plan for the development. If you wanted to encompass this all in one 1-lot subdivision, Don, then our suggestion would have been that you do it as a PUD, just for simplicity's sake. But you don't have to do that at this point. So you've applied for site plan approval. And we believe that you can proceed with just site plan approval as opposed to a public hearing for PUD and the whole 9 yards there. The only thing that we noted that you may have to go through a public hearing process for would be the fence along 133rd. Because fencing is not allowed. It is allowed in a commercial district, and that property is zoned commercial on the frontage there. But there's 2 things. First of all, it can't be taller than 3 feet. It has to be decorative in nature, which it's going to be. It's an architectural fence. But I'm sure you're planning on, we couldn't find a detail, but I'm sure you're planning on at least a 6-foot fence there.
Yes, it's 6-foot decorative, as you said.
And the other thing is it would have to be set back 40 feet from the front property line, which puts it in the middle of your planned detention pond.
Right,
So
exactly.
it doesn't. So your bottom line is, I believe that you're just going to have to seek a variance before the BZA for that fence.
Okay.
But I think, Jill, that's the only action we identified in our review. So should be quite a bit more simple than we had originally thought.
That's great to hear.
There may be some benefit to at least doing a replat, because this is a kind of a
There could be.
combining of 3 or 4 parcels, and some of them, it looks like 2 of them still have right away out to the center line. I don't know how that got through with 133rd phase 2, but 2 of those old parcels still extend to center line. It'd be nice to clean them up
Well, yeah,
and actually have the right of way dedicated.
We can dedicate the right of way by separate documents.
Yeah, I could do that too.
yes, Mr. Austin.
We still don't then have it in a plat. What is the underlying zoning district right now, as it stands?
B1, David, R1, and I believe it's just B1 and R1.
And these uses are spread over how many lots of record?
One.
One lot of record.
Well, there
So we're adding
were,
another use. What you're proposing is ball fields or a building for the ball fields or whatever.
Yeah.
Additional use appended to
it was a
your
multi-zone,
athletic complex.
It's a multi-zone property.
because it used to be 3 parcels that got lumped into 1, and they had all different zoning on them.
Right. And the use is allowed in those districts.
It is, but
Yeah.
how many of those uses are allowed in a one lot subdivision in that zoning district?
So
And
the
how
use-
many already exist?
If you're talking about this 17 and some odd acres, Don, that's on that's where the ball fields are going, supposed to be going. The only use are the ball fields.
And then the parking lot.
Well, yeah, the parking for is accessory to the ball
And
field.
to detention pond.
Right. So the use is permitted in the 2 zoning districts that are there. I agree with Don Oliphant. It'd be nice to clean it up and do a 1 lot subdivision, but it's not necessary is what I'm saying. It's not required. Because they're not building any new structures.
Which brings me to my question that I was thinking about earlier. A dugout's not considered a building.
No, sir.
All right. I noticed the roadway heading to 129th, it's calling it an easement. Does that you plan on improving that? Is that going to be an access road of any kind in this
No, there's
project?
no intention to improve that. In fact, I was speaking with Joe today about this. The people that live there, they're very much against it, and the school doesn't want to cause any trouble with them, so there's no plans on improving that.
Is that the boundary road on the west side? Is that, so that's a private access road, but does that have an ingress egress over it
Yes, it
to,
does.
for the houses to the north? Okay.
We're talking, what he was talking about, though. was-
Yeah, up to Wildwood.
Yes, there's an ingress egress on the road.
All right. Mr. Austin, anything else? No. Okay. Mr. Everly, you good?
Yes, sir.
Scoobiac, Jill, you good?
Oh, I gotta go. Back
Yeah.
in, when this came last time, did we have a 1 lot subdivision going ahead in that direction, or?
I don't think so. I think at the time, I think it was still 3 separate parcels. I think they had just purchased them then. So the combining of them is kind of new, but I don't think that was I need to get back and look at that original application and see where it was left off.
The slopes of the detention pond were steep where they needed the fence, correct? I remember we went through this whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's an offset required from public right of ways to detention basins, high water levels. So there was a requirement to at least either have some type of berming or fencing to, dissuade pedestrian and vehicular traffic away from it. But like I said, it's been so long, I need to figure out where we left off. If there's any major changes to the 14 plan to this plan, but I don't think a 1 lot was required.
Is there vacant space where more use could be made of some of the parcel here? Could you be coming back to us in 5 years saying we're gonna put 2 more ball fields and
No,
skate park?
no, the parking lot might be able to be expanded upon a little bit, but that's about it. No.
So prospectively, there's no structures contemplated or?
No? No, there's either,
I
The parking
remember- I
for the
remember what
football
Tim
games.
remembers.
the parking for the football games is all in front of the building right now. What they wanted to do is they wanted to get a parking lot over there so they'll be closer to the football field.
I do think, as we try to do customarily, get these parcels cleaned up, like Don said, if that's still showing the center of the road.
It's a lot. It's a lot of record. So it's not that same issue that we typically have when we recommend a one lot sub. So Don's right, we can clean that up by deed essentially,
Okay.
versus going through an entire replat. You can do that too. There's a couple of mechanisms you can to clean it up.
Well, the replat to a one lot subdivision is going to have waivers for everything that already exists.
Yeah.
It's going to be a cleanup action with the new proposed use being added.
Yeah. So,
And that's inclusive of that easement that we would get.
yeah. So we can do it as a replat if it makes the most sense. I'm
Well, the other
fine
thing
either way.
I seem to remember from back before is the shrinking, like you're saying that you're shrinking the parking lot. I seem to remember having some extensive conversations about, you know, putting in all these facilities and with this limited amount of parking. I mean, I remember the last effort kept trying to reduce, you know, put in all these extra amenities and then reduce the number of parking spaces. And I see that happening again here, and I don't know if anybody's ever been to an event at the high school, but if you're not there 2 hours early, you're not getting a place to park. So I hate to see cutting out the parking. We put in all this cool stuff, but there's nobody able to park anywhere. And I don't know how many spaces are provided on this plan, but I do remember when we went through this the last time, we held pretty firm on keeping those parking areas and a way to get the traffic in and out of there for those events and stuff. I don't know where that whole plan is. I know we just looked at it back here before the meeting. I remember that being a pretty big part of the conversation on the last track.
They've proposed 176 parking spaces in that parking lot there on this property. The requirement would be 1 parking space for every 3 seats. They have 4 sets of bleachers. So the 176 parking spaces would accommodate 538 seats, and I'm certain you don't have 538 seats and 4 sets of bleachers.
Isn't there different sports though? There's different fields, there's softball, there's different
Right.
things, so.
Right, there's 2.
Right, they're not all gonna happen at the same time.
Well, but I know during the summertime, you have multiple practices going on at once.
Well, I guess with that said, you know, new sets of bleachers can show up in the summertime and nobody knows about it anyway. I noticed here on page 2, the only way to expand that parking lot is to go north.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
And there is open grass there. I wasn't involved in the determination as to the number of parking spaces needed. I was simply given this from the architect and told that the school corporation went through a process to determine what they wanted.
Yeah. Well, perhaps Mr. Kubiak, and Mr. Austin can do a little time travel and see where this got left.
Everything Tim just said is accurate, without the details yet, but that was a studied event, a studied process because
The access to Wildwood was mentioned back then also,
that's right.
and it filled the room. So,
And there are a lot of vehicles on certain event nights at that high school.
yeah.
I seem to remember the need for that parking lot was actually for the football games, and that was kind of the purpose of this expanded parking lot was for football games. I mean,
I believe that's correct.
the practice fields, I agree with you 100%, that parking is plenty adequate for the practice facility, but I believe the parking area was for the football events behind the school, it wasn't for this area, it was sufficient parking for their football games, so. I remember, we spent a lot of time going through and getting all this stuff to that point, and then it kind of just fell off for the years, so. Back whenever that was. I just would like to make sure, I guess my point is that I know that before that, I don't remember the size of the parking lot, I just like to see where we were at last time, because I know we went through a lot of that. to get to that point, so.
Yeah, and that's why I'm suggesting perhaps some homework on that item. Is that something you have somewhere?
Yeah. We have all the legal files.
I still have the original plan.
Do you?
We're certainly going to look back at it and see where it left off,
Okay.
differences. And
Did you go through the BZA?
What?
Did you go through the BZA about the parking, about reducing the parking?
No, because it never got built. They just used it for fill.
Because, or is it, or am I thinking the high school itself? Or the middle school, they reduced the parking there? Because I remember you said you wanted the,
Recently,
right.
yeah. That's the elementary school. By the middle school. All right.
And I probably should add that these are 10-foot by 20-foot spaces. So the proper-
Nice,
I think so.
Hmm.
Shown on the plan that way.
nice.
Yeah.
All right. Any commissioners have any comments? Building department, anything else?
Nothing
All
there.
right. Don, all fine, good?
Good for now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stringa.
Before they leave,
Yes, sir.
our agenda calls this out as a one-lot subdivision application. What are we looking for?
The actual application itself, David, says site plan, so the agenda's incorrect.
One lot from last,
But yeah, the one lot is for the middle school.
Yeah,
One
once
lot
we,
sub is for the middle school.
is on the next page.
Okay. And this is site plan only?
Yeah, yeah. Right, yeah, sorry, yeah.
Thank you.
Good night. Right, old business, item number 2. Crossroads YMCA rezone. Owners John Hayes, South Shore Country Club, 14400 Lake Shore Drive. Petitioners Crossroads Young Men's Christian Association Incorporated, 100 West Burrell Drive, Crown Point, Indiana. Vicinities 14400 Lake Shore Drive. Petitioner is requesting a rezone from residential R1 zoning district to a planned unit development zoning district. Good evening.
Good evening, Jay Buckmaster, CEO of the Crossroads YMCA. I have a couple of my colleagues online, so I think they're with some health concerns. Jim Weiser, who is our attorney, and Jeff Van, who did some of the civil work with DVG, and John Rambo, who is the architect from Sloper. So I think, although I can't see or hear them, I think Jim was gonna kick this off.
Jim is online and John, I don't see Jeff.
John might not be.
Okay. Oh, no, John's on. I don't see Jeff Van.
Jeff is here too, Don.
There you go.
One of Jim Weezer's.
I think we have 4 logins for Jim, so.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah.
Mr.
Mr.
Weiser.
Chairman,
Mr. Weiser,
and
you're gonna lead this, or Mr. Buckmaster?
I will lead it very briefly and then turn it over to Mr. Buckmaster.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Plan Commission. And congratulations on being elected again, Jerry, although sometimes probably condolences are more in order, but congratulations.
Every other Wednesday.
Yeah. As you know, I'm a legal counsel for the Crossroads YMCA and in particular for this project. Just to give a real brief historical perspective, we've been in front of the town for some time now in several iterations of the concept and the plan. And as a result of the last Plan Commission meeting months ago that we attended, we went back to the drawing board and did several things and to make this plan presentable and reflect the nature of the project that we would like to bring to this community. In doing so, we were fortunate enough to have the staff and Dave Austin be willing to meet with us on several occasions to flesh out a lot of issues and concerns and questions, so that once we came back to you, we could do it in a what we believe to be a very strong and well-planned presentation. So that is what we did. And you heard Dave make reference when Don Taringa was speaking on the other project. Dave made reference to a planned unit development contract that we've worked on. And we have worked diligently on that contract. And one of the things I want to stress relative to that is not only did we put into the narrative of the contract what we intend to do, but we referenced at every point we could the specific recreational activities and locations and public utility locations and everything that needs to be in there. We reference those in drawings and schematics, and also rendered architectural drawings of proposed buildings to give you as much detail as we possibly could. Having said all that, I just want to say one final thing. The Crossroads YMCA is an organization that educates and instructs kids and provides not only those items to children, but it provides an opportunity for them to enjoy recreation and to learn how important recreation is in their lives. And this is why we have approached this community. Cedar Lake, as I know from the work I do, is probably the fastest growing or one of the fastest growing communities in Lake County in Northwest Indiana. It's an ideal location for a destination camp to provide to kids in this area, in your community, and in the opportunity to enjoy recreation that so many of us enjoyed over the years that we were growing up, and sometimes gets lost in this world of technology, to provide them that opportunity to do it in a safe manner, in a beautiful environment, located on a beautiful, attractive lake. And we think this is the key benefit of this project, is to serve the children and the future leaders of our community. That's the goal of the YMCA, to give them the background, the necessary background to become community leaders and involved in their community. So, and we've done that by providing you, as I said, this planned unit development document that has taken a lot of work between all of us, and that's including the staff and Mr. Austin on your side, and the plans that we've refined and developed from what you first saw many months ago. So having said all that, in terms of the technical aspect of that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jay, and between Jay and Jeff and John, they will move forward with that aspect of it. And I thank you for the opportunity to make this presentation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Weiser.
All right, Jim's gonna put me out of a job here. But you do have a bunch of course, the PUD contract and the preliminary development plan submittal. This is just a rendering that everybody can see what phase 1 and 2 looks like. You have that in your packet of all those pages. So I'm going to reference a little bit about that. But again, with this, and I will reiterate what Jim has said, we're going to talk about buildings, but this is really about enhancing the community. Mr. Carnahan was impressed with Hanover when they talked about impacting the kids and families in this community, and that's what this is. And you know, our work across Lake County is continuing, and it even is more important with this pandemic, with a glaring light on health and wellness and social isolation and electronics and all those pieces. There's a lot of research that has been done about the effects of day camp, and those are pretty profound. When we look at it, and I'm just going to spend a second, current and former campers that we have report that relationship skills, appreciation for others, emotional regulation and responsibility were among the things that they learned at camp that they consider to be most important in their daily lives today. We've had many former counselors that said that this being a camp counselor has really helped them prepare for their jobs and the workplace and school. I think opportunities to be present in the moment, we all sometimes struggle with that, to explore one's identity and to learn through these direct experiences at camp are really key. In addition, we have the independence and affinity for nature, to get out of those, using those electronics, and really a willingness to try new things. And so those are the elements that we hope to provide in this camp. And parents would also agree that as we do surveys, 70% of parents believe that their child has gained a sense of self-confidence through the experiences they've had at camp. 63% have learned new activities, and 70% have made new friends. And those are really critical. And so I guess I say that because I really want to be sensitive to some of the issues that we've heard over the times that we've been here. And I say that because this is not a day camp that is just a free-for-all camp. It's not where parents and people drop their kids off unregistered just to run around the neighborhood. We have curriculum, we're outcome driven and highly trained staff. We are in the camp business. We probably run and take more camp kids in Lake County than any other organization. Pre-COVID, it was 600 to 1,000 kids a day at all of our locations across Lake County. We know how to keep kids safe. We know how to supervise children. We take them on field trips. We do all those types of things. And we know 99% is not good enough, when we talk about safety of our kids. And so I just did want to reiterate that these camps, this camp supports the Ys in Lake County. That's what this supports. We're looking to support to have a progressive opportunity and experience for kids that age out essentially, these 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds that want that engaging experience, that don't want to be put into a gymnasium all day or those types of things. And so I say that because I think that this is something that we're going to talk about buildings and utilities, but really this is near and dear to why we started this in the first place. That these buildings are really tools for the activities that we can do to help raise a healthy and connected, families and support. So with that, you have phase one in there. Just quickly, phase one includes a renovation to the clubhouse. And again, I think that's in your packet. And again, that clubhouse will be used as an eating area, an activity area, check in and check out, inclement weather, and some staff offices. There's an opening ceremony area, flag raising ceremony as it's marked there. And that's really the beginning and ending of camp. So camp, there's early drop off and a late pickup on the shoulder ends of the day, but around 9 o'clock, there is some song singing and there is some character building and those types of things that happen for a little bit of time, 30 minutes at the front of the day, and then again at 4 o'clock, 4:30 to do some celebrations of those types of activities at the end of the day. So that's what the opening ceremony is really used for. It's used for skits. It's used for all those things that really reinforce the activities I talked about. Program villages in there in your documentation are really flexible, I'll call them two-stall garage type activity areas where there's small groups can explore, whether it's music, whether it's crafts, reading, STEM projects, those types of things. We do have a climbing tower, again, adventure-based activities that kids can really challenge themselves in climbing and bouldering and belaying. There is an archery and a slingshot area. Again, a safe, supervised exploration of bow and arrow and slingshot type activities, and a beachfront area. So again, swimming ranks high as an importance. People need to be able to be safe around water, and we feel like, again, the time that we have with our kids inside of this camp, we're going to make sure they're safe and they're educated about safety around water. So that's important. As I said last time, there will be no boats flying around, motorized boats flying around and so on. These are really canoes and really kind of these one-person prams that kids learn right in that area how to sail. Again, they're supervised during that time. The Y has been synonymous for the buddy system inside of water activities and those types of things. So they're always guarded by qualified staff. In phase 2, again, just putting a broad brush over this, is a multi-nasium program building. And so again, that's the big structure that is used for, will convert after the first phase is complete. But when we go to the second, that'll be the new drop-off and pickup area. Again, a shelter area, activity area, whether it's protection against sun and hot days or rain and cloudy days, sports activities, team building activities, and so on. So that gives you a little bit of a summary. Just a couple final thoughts that some of the comments that came up before were about days and times of camp, and will it be, midnight and those types of things. And so I did want to address that the camp day ends at 6 o'clock, 6:30. This is mostly gonna, 80% of this volume is gonna be during the summer months, of course. And, doesn't mean that we're not gonna support during the shoulder season, but obviously that's a much different avenue as we go through there. Right now, we're looking at 10-year-olds and up. We want to support our branch camps up until 9, and then 10-year-olds. So there's not going to be, real young kids at this, unless it's with a family camp, and of course they're supervised by their family. We talked about the noise again in what we presented. We put at least a 100-foot barrier between the residences. In fact, you won't see a structure, I think, until about 225 feet. And then you'll also see in most areas about a 15 to 20 foot vertical drop, before our first structure starts. So we did try to make sure that there was a large area, a distance, a buffering between those types of things. These camp activities are open to everyone. You don't have to be a member of the Y to, be involved in these programs, but you do have to register, right? We do have to have parent information and all those pieces, and so that's part of the structure of keeping a safe, environment. And I think the final piece, when we look at this, is the number of kids. It looks around, that we could progress to about 175, 200 kids, and so again, these are not 175, 200 kids in one specific area. These are, when you think about the activities that I just mentioned, they're, 2 groups of kids at the program village, and then one group at each one of the, at archery, and then the other one at slingshot, and then one at the nature center, and then one in an open rec area, and maybe 2 groups, 20 kids swimming, and 2 at the flag raising ceremony doing something. So again, they're in groups of 8 to 10. That's a pretty big area where, they're spreading out in these different activities, again, supervised in a 1 to 8, 1 to 10 ratio as we go through. So when you think about 200 kids or somewhere, through that, that's a lot of staff, of course, being able to usher these kids, through and to these activities. So
what is your peak, as we're on employees, how many employees do you have?
again, it's all ratio driven. So you have
What's
1
the
to 10
max?
on that side. You have a nurse. You have just again supervisors there. You have meal cookers. You have kind of all those pieces.
A maximum of guests and staff. What's the maximum?
Maximum right now of kids, we're saying 200.
Okay. So how many staffers do you need for
Well,
that?
so we're going to need at least, you're probably talking 25, 25 to 30 staff.
Okay.
When you talk about all the activities and boats and lifeguards and, those.
Is that Monday to Friday thing or?
So Monday through Friday, thanks. Good question. Yeah, Monday through Friday.
And how far out on the lake do you guys proposing? Is that like 88 feet from the shore all the way out?
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to stay in our area. We're not going to have a 5 or 6 kids going canoe, down to the ice cream place, and come back, that type of thing. Now, if they do take somewhere going, of course, they're going to have a staff person with them, right? Whether it's one in the canoe or one next to them if they're in a frame. And again, these are groups of 10 people going out, not 200 people, running into the water at the same time.
Will the children be brought by their parents? Will they be bused in? How will they arrive?
Yeah, so they'll be brought by their, what we normally see is this, again, we're in this business, it's geography. People are gonna go to a place that's close to them, right? To drop off their kids, pick up their kids. But we probably will see some people from, Cherville, that are Y members or community participants that want to come. But yeah, most of them will be, again, in this Lake County area. We have talked about in our branches, we have one bus that goes from Whiting to, Cherville to Griffith, and then to here, if kids were interested in any of those Y sites, that would tender over to come down. But that's the only time, otherwise 80% of them will be dropped.
And when they're dropped off,
Bufferings, go ahead, John.
when they're dropped off, then the cars do not stay there. They leave.
Correct.
They leave.
Yep.
So how many other places do you have like this?
Like this, we don't, they're all the camps are inside of our branches right now. So there's a camp at South Lake, there's a camp at Griffith, there's a camp at Hammond, there's a camp at Whiting.
Okay, because I thought before you showed us drawings for other camps that you had when it was out.
They were when we were in this first study session, they were examples of camps that we had seen from the study session. But this is the actual site of.
You're referring, Mr. Becker, to those sites that had no neighbors.
Right. It was out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
This is in the middle of residential area.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's what I was just wondering.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, across the lake, that camp is right against, a neighborhood. And so, there's 4,000, there's 5,000 camps throughout the country.
What camp are you talking about?
The Bible camp across the lake.
Oh, I wouldn't use that as an example.
Well, I'm just telling you that it can go,
Yeah.
but I'll say there's 5,000 camps and, around. You're right. There are some of them that are very secluded. There's some of them that are.
When you put up these amphitheaters, how close are they going to be to residential, like on the west side of the property? Number one, and number two, which way will they be facing? Will the shell be facing towards the residential, or will it be facing east?
Yeah, so you saw a flag raising ceremony in your picture. I wouldn't call it an amphitheater
I'm not
necessarily.
talking about that. You showed us a rendition and of phase two, where you had all these, you had an amphitheater there, you had an amphitheater in phase one or two of them there. you had-
Across the south on 145, we had some things, yeah.
You might want to explain that that's out of it.
So
phase
yeah,
three.
that's out. So any across that, those acres right now are phase 3. And that is just, we've taken all that out, and that's just an open space nature area that we're using right now. So this is what we're asking for.
Well, all I have is the documents on this little iPad. I'd like to see something I can touch. The
Yeah,
drawing.
I guess,
Well, we provided.
yeah, I think what we have here, I think what we
Yeah,
have,
we provided all that.
I think, Mr. Buckmaster, I think this is the, I think this is the
I know it's on-
third or fourth
It's up.
best concept so far that we've seen.
We've
I think
definitely
this-
adjusted it from when we came
Yeah,
here.
and that's
No
what,
question.
and that's what we're talking about.
No
This item comes to us, then it goes dark, and then there's a new picture, and then you come back, and then it gets adjusted and moves around, and that's what John has in his memory.
Yeah.
A band shell, backdrop, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, when we
Origin-
came in first, it was resident and day camp. And so right now, we're just asking for day.
Yeah, and I think also originally there was 2 phases. The
Yeah.
north side of the road and the south side of the road.
Yep.
Now there's how many phases?
3.
3 phases.
Yep. Yep.
And what is the timeline for completion of the 3rd phase? Is that in the PUD contract anywhere?
Can you explain what those 3 phases are though?
Yeah, so I just did, so,
Just summary real quick.
yeah, in your packet, 1, 2, well, I don't know if you have a packet, I guess. But
Well, I have paperwork, but they don't, so just a quick
Okay,
summary. of the 3.
So here, let me. So is this for there?
Yeah, thank
Okay,
you.
so this is the current clubhouse. That one stays. And so that gets renovated a little bit. Into the phase 1. There is a flag raising ceremony with some logs right here. These are the. There's a rock wall here.
So we've been asking
And
this paperwork for.
this is all
school
slingshot area. That is really phase 1. And then phase 2, we add this multi-purpose area and take the parking from here. That's kind of a quick.
Yeah, thank you.
That is just phase 1 on that.
Phase 1 and 2.
1 and 2.
Immediately. Look at it.
Said sheet C201. Yes,
Yeah.
that should be sheet 201. Well,
No.
sheet 201.
So 1 and 2 is all north of 100.
Correct.
It's all on the first 2 holes, I mean, 1 and
1 and
18
18.
there, and then it takes, where's the house that was there?
Which, this is the current house right here. There's the garage, there's that back area that's existing.
Yeah, and you're showing all this way over there, you don't know all that.
Yep.
do you?
Yep.
All the way to the corner?
Not to the corner, there's a section out right here.
Yeah.
To the marina, right?
Those pages that I had here.
Yeah.
There's gonna be copies for everybody, so.
Okay, yeah.
They'll have, probably have more questions.
Would you explain on the south side of the property by the creek there, the buffer that will go to separate South Shore subdivision from the noise that's in this contract here?
Over
to the
here?
people? Yeah.
Yeah, so we have, again, we've put buffers, whether it's been the minimum of, we've been around that 100-foot area as we've gone through. So anything that has a structure, now there's not a structure. Again, when you look, if that's the neighborhood here, I mean, this is pretty far away as you look across the street. And so this is the closest structure that would be to that neighborhood. And then again, all this other stuff is not anywhere for anybody on the south side.
But it accommodates the noise.
Yeah.
One other thing, on page 13 of this contract, I think I mentioned it before, but now it's changed again. It indicates that town council president is John Foreman, and that needs to be changed to Randall Niemeyer. And the vice president on this page shows Julie Rivera, and that is now Richard Sharp.
And the clerk treasurer.
Yeah, excuse me, this is, I don't know if you can hear me, this is Jim.
Yeah,
We made those,
yeah, Mr. Weezer.
yeah, I apologize. We were aware of those changes. I corrected those changes and sent in a new, after we had discussions with the staff and they had made comments on some other changes, I made all of those and finalized it and sent those in to the staff and to David today.
Thank you.
So that's all been corrected.
And so, I mean, a little bit of the elephant in the room is what's phase three. And so when we talked to town staff and, we said, we're gonna, take this a little slower. We're gonna make sure that, we think there's not a lot of construction on this side. We want to keep the essence, as you can see this, that it's just not filled with buildings. And so we took that feedback to heart and said, yeah, okay, well, maybe there's too many buildings here. We want to keep the greenery. We want to have some activities. And so again, we're going to start with phase 1 and 2. And then of course, we're going to have to come back and be able to work through phase 3.
Wow. What are your preliminary intentions for phase 3? I heard the first time camps, cabins,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I think it's the same in the sense of we believe or we think that based on, again, our looking at the number of people that are looking for a safe resident camp, sleepover camp experience, that we think that this would be a good area to do it. And so we do still plan on that. But again, we're going to hit the pause button on that to make sure that we're going to control this. We're going to, of course, get feedback on what this is, what works, what doesn't work, and work with the neighborhood to make sure that we're lined up and and circle those folks.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Austin.
That's really an incredibly important question, and it's important in the context of our law, where the proposal needs to contain the method, the manner, and the path to completing the improvements in a 5-year period. There's also time periods for the development agreement to be met, complied with the types of you've seen. And I'm just reminded that the reason for that, those terms being incorporated into the PUD zoning district section of your zoning code has to do with past experiences. Past experiences include a parcel that is now developed into the Beacon Point East PUD and townhome community at 141st and Parish. And if you recall, that was, I think,
Union Station.
Union Station, and it was and Reedfeld Farm became, when it was no longer Union Station. And we didn't have a back out. I mean, we didn't have a way of backing it out until the next developer came along. And fortunately, the next developer came along. But, the next most important piece of land in our town for development purposes, maybe the piece we're talking about. And so the questions are relevant and probably going to need to address them. They're not going to go away.
Yeah.
Do you guys own the property yet or now? No. So can we move forward with anything without them owning it?
Sure you can. They're the developer. They describe themselves as that. The owner would need to be a participant. The owner would end up being responsible. So yeah, the answer to your question, yeah, they can develop.
Or we can go ahead
Maybe a
and,
partnership with South Shore, or they'll buy it when they get to a point, or
so we can go ahead and rezone it to a PUD
can.
without them owning it.
Can. There's probably some caution to be had about that. There's some discussion about what occurs on the property. The worst thing that could happen to us is that occur. But the closing does not occur, but the development begins and the project doesn't work out. Now we have a problem.
So you're saying that the PUD approval, if that was the case, would be, have to have the YMCA and all this information tied to it.
Oh, yeah. This is the reason we have a PUD petition. This is where all of the deviations and variances go away, and you make a deal. You make a contract zoning. And you don't need your BZA, you don't need, staff site plan. You will have that within the body of the agreement, which will be enforced, but because it's the ordinance that will adopt that.
So you've looked over this contract up till now.
I looked over what I received today after talking to Rick yesterday about knowing that Jim was making a few more changes. I've learned my lesson the hard way. I want to read things once, maybe twice, not 3 or 4 times.
Okay. Mr. Becker?
Yeah, what's the, like, with Hanover, they have a PUD. And aren't ours more detailed about every little thing compared to this?
The school project has first of all, it's on a different piece of land. Every piece of real estate is unique. This is I'll use your phrase in your agreement. It's a groomed piece of grass. A place for activities consistent with that groomed grass. It's golf course. And it's proposed to be used for activities that seem to inure to being a groomed ground of some sort. So the school property, on the other hand, is a farm that is being reconverted or repurposed completely. As though there was nothing there before, because there wasn't a farm. So they go down the path of giving us a fully developed site plan, and all of the items that are required for safe, appropriate, and lawful use of the property as proposed for school building, administration building, maintenance building, and permanent uses. That's a whole different ballgame. Now, does that mean they don't have the responsibility to do an agreement and pull that together, and make an agreement with the town? No, they have to do that. It's different. It's not a bunch of school buildings that, 40 acres or 50 acres of property.
I guess to your question, Chuck, or your comment, these prints here, this is all school stuff in detail. And we don't have exactly that here.
I want to see detail before we do something for a PUD. I don't want to.
Yeah.
And this is the first time we've seen the paperwork.
Well,
Great.
And the school owns its property. There's a difference in that also. This is the developer bringing a proposed project, and without knowing for sure, I know pretty close that it's a contingent transaction upon being able to do what they want to do on the property. That's how development agreements are.
This certainly isn't apples for apples, but I understand what you're saying. And when we get new things, they seem to be different than the things before. Sometimes.
Well, that was based on your feedback. And I mean,
I got you.
And what we had was a study session, which of course, we listened and we went back and provided a lot more detail than what we had before. We have all the setbacks, all the, those pieces. We've addressed that in our PUD contract.
Okay.
Has there been a traffic study going?
Yeah.
It's going to affect traffic?
Again, that's all in.
Wasn't it from
City staff,
2018?
with Jill and Rick and Don, we've gone through all of this. We've addressed that in our PUD contract.
Anybody in the building department have any comments at this time?
Well, I'll start and then I'll turn it over to Jill because Jill has some detailed responses to both the site plan and the language in the contract. But Jill and Michelle and I met on this, went through the project, identified some issues that we see that we think need to be changed, but keep in mind the petitioner has a right to ask for what they want to ask for. So for example, they don't show sidewalks on the front of it. And we advised them that we felt they should include those sidewalks. With the new submittal, they didn't include the sidewalks. So they're submitting it without sidewalks, and we want you to know that the sidewalks are not there so that you can decide whether you'll accept that or not. But we did look at the buildings, the heights of things, and we had some suggestions that they make some changes to. They made some of the suggestions and chose not to make the changes, and chose not to make the other changes. But they have a right to do that. But we're going to point out to you where we think the issues are, not that they're not legal or anything like that. But we're just going to point out what we think are the issues. If you want to go through those items, we sent them 10 items that we had concerns with, and they addressed some of them and made some changes and elected not to change some of the others.
Okay, this list that you're gonna read to us, they already have this?
They have that, yeah.
They already have it.
We had Jill and I had a teleconference with Jim Weezer and Jeff Van after we had sent them the comments. I emailed them the comment, and then we talked to Jim and Jeff a day or two later, something like that, so that they had time to digest the comments that we've made. So.
Okay.
In your written report I provided to you this evening, I did a review of the submittal that was sent to us this afternoon.
Mhm.
Document to the application. There is one more parcel on the PUD document. Oversight that rezone application. Clarifying the name throughout the document, whether it's CRYMCA or YMCA Day Camp PUD. All sheets referenced in the document should include a date. So, for example, a cover sheet index 201 should have a date following it, so we know which sheet 201, because we know there'll be some changes to documents.
We want to make sure we have the most recent version, so we want to make sure that that's dated.
On page 2, paragraph 2, developers shall be allowed to make modifications to the declaration of covenants. Staff will report to legal for review on that particular paragraph. On page 6, we had some questions on the trip generation and how those trips were calculated throughout the state. Pages 7 and 8, again, that's recognizing the sidewalk and the height of the setback off of 145th in the decel lane, the drawing needs to be consistent.
Right, that parking lot that you see there at the bottom of that's highlighted at the bottom of page C201, it does not have a 30-foot setback from the right-of-way line. And the contract says it will have a 30-foot setback. So we need to make sure, Don, first of all, where that right-of-way line is, because on that drawing on C201, they show a buffer zone / right-of-way, and it looks like that's probably 25 feet off of existing right-of-way.
I had the same comment.
Right, and if that's the case, then the parking lot needs to be moved even further north. But the point is, that drawing there, Jay, that needs to be made consistent with the language that's in your contract.
And we talked to Slocum already based on those conversations. They just didn't flip that past them. Yep.
Same with the building height as discussed, kind of clarifying which buildings are activity structures on those heights. Otherwise, it looks
contract says that the buildings are not to exceed, buildings and structures are not to exceed 55 feet. That is for their climbing tower. That I don't believe, Jay, that applies to your plan.
The multi-purpose, I think, is
building.
40.
It's well under.
Right. So, but the way the
Yeah.
contract's written, you could build any building up to 55 feet. So that needs to be clarified.
On the beachfront water activities, we had asked for some clarity on the number of the prams, small boats, and that had been addressed to 12, 8 to 10, 12. But there was no construction sequence or time schedule for completion of each phase. And then as of last night, Richard Sharp gave me
As David mentioned to you earlier, a PUD by our ordinance has to be finished within 5 years. We had discussed that at early on at a staff meeting in this room, and I think we actually made the suggestion that because of that 5-year time frame, I don't believe they have any intention of finishing all 3 phases, provided they even get approval in the first place, finishing all 3 phases in 5 years. So we had suggested that perhaps they leave phase 3 out altogether for the time being. But I think they're going to choose to simply come back in for an amendment of the PUD. And by the way, this kind of goes to Mr. Becker's comment about details. What you see there on site on this sheet 201 is a site plan showing what they intend to do. If they deviate from this in any way, in any significant way in the future, they would have to come back and amend that the PUD for phases 1 and 2 as well. And we discussed that with Mr. Weezer and Mr. Van, and they're certainly aware of that. And then phase 3 would anything other than the nature trails that Jay mentioned that would occur on phase 3 would need an amended PUD as well. Now, David, I don't know if it's simply amending the PUD restarts that clock, refreshes that 5-year clock or not, or if they would have to seek an extension of time to the original PUD.
Either one of those strategies could work.
Either one?
Either one.
Right. So they need to be sensitive to that. If they're going to seek the approval of this and say phase 1 and phase 2, they need to be prepared to finish phase 1 and phase 2 in that 5-year time frame, or come back for an amendment before that time period.
All right. Any commissioners have any other questions right now?
Not
questions. Don, any questions?
Some comments. Some of those are actually some of the similar comments I had. I mean, we just started looking at this week. To go along with the sidewalk, I mean, they're also asking for not basically expanding the public right of way, so widening the road to our required subdivision control ordinance, and then also installing curb and gutters. They've asked not to do that based on their traffic count. But in my opinion, that requirement's not really related to traffic per se. Just a typical thing that we require any development to do to improve their frontage. And that would include frontage off of Morse as well. So there's that along with the sidewalk. I'd like to see a little more detail on security, particularly after hours. I think you kind of summed it up pretty well during, and then also to summarize your actual operations hours. I think you said 6:30, not weekends. I'm more concerned about somebody accessing the archery range or the climbing wall when nobody's there. I don't know how this will be secured. I mean, outside of that, I mean, I think this is going to be a 2-lot subdivision. I think the way it's going to come out, and that will address the right-of-way dedication along 145th and Morse. I don't know. I think it's only a 40-foot right-of-way through here, but the entire parcel that goes to center line or just off center line, so that has to be remediated once we get to kind of the site plan approval.
Don, we would expect that decel lane to be within the right of way, correct?
Yes. So we'd obviously have to get into that nitty-gritty and details when we actually get the more detailed site plan for that. I noticed the parking in the C201 versus the schematic were vastly different, and the parking being in there. Several other things. We'll formalize our comments into a letter here pretty quickly. Those are the major ones.
Okay.
You are not gonna have any staff spending and staying overnight. When you showed us the first rendition, you say you were putting staff cabins on number 2T.
Well, when there's overnight campers, there's overnight staff. In this one, phase 1 and 2, there is no overnight any.
Okay, so that is not part of it right now. Right. And how did you determine the number of parking places? And what size are they gonna be?
I think they're, yeah, you might want to help. I think it's 9 by 18.
Yeah, it's 9 by 18.
9 by 18. And I'll let you take that one too. Determine the number of parking spaces.
We had a conversation with staff a couple of times about estimates for a day camp are not well studied. There's not a lot of data for that. What we used was we applied the parking requirements and standards for elementary schools. The kind of activities and the kind of trip generations that we're going to be generating at the same kinds of time were in line with elementary schools as this day camp. And so we came up with a total requirement based on the 200 campers of 40, I think it was 43 required parking or 42 parking spaces. In our phase 2, when we have the multi-purpose building in, we'll have a total provided number of parking spaces at 143. So we far exceed the parking requirements that we believe is required of this site. And I don't want to speak for Don or Rick or Jill or anybody else in the town, but I believe the town staff supported the assumptions that we're making and in quantifying our requirements.
And John, that's in the packet I just gave you.
Okay, all right. And our orders say 10 by 20 parking. Why are we going 9 by 18?
If we need to go by 10 by 20, because that is what you believe is necessary, then we will do that. 9 by 18 is an acceptable in lots of other communities. This is a PUD, and that's what we thought was appropriate for this this site. But if the town believes it ought to be 10 by 20, we will adjust the plan accordingly.
Okay, I was just curious, but that is what the ordinance is.
What about curbs? Drainage. Long road, going in.
Yeah, well, that's what staff had talked about. I think there's, that Don talked about the curbs and the gutters and the sidewalks. You know, those, we'll again, work with town staff. I mean,
As submitted, it doesn't show.
Yeah.
But as Don said, it would be required. So that's why we want to call it to your attention, because if you believe that they should be included, then you don't want to approve the plan as submitted. And please let's understand that this is just a study session, nothing's getting approved.
Right,
tonight.
yeah.
Their plan is to come back next month at the next study session and advertise for a public hearing at the February study session. Jim, I believe, Mr. Weezer, I believe that's correct. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct, Rick.
Sure.
So my immediate concerns are impact on the residents, our community as a whole, police, fire, and just our general infrastructure. So knowing that, how do the benefits outweigh those?
So what are the, as far as?
Well, what are you bringing to us that outweighs those issues?
So the issue, I mean, if there was a 200 houses in there, there would be.
Well, there's not, when you're proposing 200 houses, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I need benefits.
It's better, I spent the first 10 minutes talking about, I mean, it's a benefit for kids and families in this community, looking at, you know, providing services. I mean, we serve a lot of, even at South Lake, we serve a lot of Cedar Lake residents in that, and that's just bringing the services closer. It's expanding services for kids and families. So that would be the benefit.
Which is great for Cedar Lake residents, but it's not closed to them, right? So we're gonna have additional traffic, additional wait on the roads. police, fire, things like that.
Well,
Those are questions.
Like the golf course isn't close to Cedar Lake traffic either.
Mr.
Totally
Buck,
different, but
But they
okay.
pay taxes.
hang on, Chuck. I've read some things that you've had in the newspaper, and you use the word sustainability a lot. You're making a business decision based on sustainability. And our job is to make sure we're making a decision based on sustainability for everybody here.
Sure.
So that's the question that's out there. The overall impact of this, nobody really can quantify that. I know what you guys do. I totally get it. And everybody loves it. But we're talking about 140 plus acre piece of property, probably the most valuable piece of property that's touching the lake right now.
Sure.
And to make a business decision, I'm not sure where the sustainability is. Your plans need certainly a lot of details. As we said, staff shouldn't be designing this. No curbs and gutters, a suggestion, no sidewalks, no suggestion, none of these things. I just, those are just my immediate thoughts. And Mr. Becker, I understand what you said, and that's why I went along the lines of saying what I said.
Well, like, let's say if there was 2 other houses there
Yeah.
instead. Park impact fee would be $344,000 the community's missing out on. $344,000
I wish we had something to compare this to.
just on park impact.
I mean, I really do. As I've done a little homework on some things, you as a CEO have proposed last summer, there was some discussion of Wicker Park. That never took off. But an investment of $30-some million was, because it was going to be similar to what's in Crown Point. It's absolutely beautiful, and it fits there very, 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 very well. But this is not that, and I'm not suggesting that it is. There's all kinds of tons and tons of questions that I couldn't even get to tonight. With that said, I know you've heard some of this before, and I know that the last time you did a presentation, you offered to take a seat because there was going to be some questions.
Sure.
Mr. Weiser did not agree with that. However, I'm going to take my council's advice, and we're going to do that again. They have a picture. As I said, I don't know how full transparency can be against the law in this country.
I'm not.
So, yes, sir.
You listened last night.
No, I got you. I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. Mr. Oshin, you want to say something?
I just wanted to let the planning commission know, I have also reviewed the contract, and I will circulate my comments to you. Having just gotten the last draft, I had a draft on December 22nd or thereabouts. I didn't look at it through the holidays. I told Jim I would.
Yeah.
And then I got another copy from Rick here within the last week. And then revision yesterday. There are, we talked about this earlier in the context of what a PUD is with contract zoning. Contract zoning means that consideration is exchanged and there's a meeting of the minds. Still remember that from my contract class. And I think that's where Chuck was going with the question. There's, or maybe Heather, there's quid pro quo, if you will. And that, kind of just looking at this as a piece of land with an end proposed use, does not have those types of terms reflected in this document. I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, but I think there has been a feeling and perhaps even some dialogue by the commission and at the council level likewise, they're aware of it. First presentation was to the town council, wasn't to you. That there's not a consideration of that. Let me witness for you one particular item. The south side of 145th will be deemed phase 3 in this plan, PUD contract, and is not proposed to be developed for anything but hiking and walking, pedestrian use, if you will, nature trail, nature hike. So what that means is that the well and water supply that is in phase 3 will not be used, will not be available to be used, and is not proposed for use. Although it's an incredibly important utility and resource. We haven't heard a word about that. And I know you guys know that. But by pulling that piece of this project parcel out of the plan proposed removes that consideration from the dialogue.
Well, we've made decisions here on somebody saying in the future, and that hasn't worked out so well.
Well,
We've also,
I've got a note running through my red lines here, talking consistently about who's going to maintain this. Are we going to have a patch field, 110 acres of knee-high grass? Or is it going to have a maintenance choice? What is going to become of it?
Yeah.
And those are questions that I have coming out of reading the document and knowing what's been talked about here and what's been talked about with you and your folks, Jay, and knowing how important the development transition occurring in this town is going. Where these types of items are so important. So see that I looked at this as a vacant piece of land business project when I read this contract. And we'll see that as hopefully it helps a bit. At the end of the day, I would expect that if there are further discussions about the contract, that Jim and I will have them.
And again, we're not trying to be adversarial. I mean, and I think Jerry and Heather, our mission is to be able to try to strengthen communities. And it's maybe easy to compare South Lake Y, right? I mean, you talk to the mayor of Uran and it's increased property values and people want to be next to the Y. And, there's a lot of things that we would say that that's a shining piece of the community. Hammond, we just announced that project. Those are maybe a little bit easier to quantify. We understand that this is
absolutely,
this is a very there's not 50 different plans for a camp like this, and so that's why I think we continue to go back to these study sessions, because we do understand that there's a lot of questions. So by any means, we're not trying to push ourselves on anyone. We're trying to strengthen community. We're trying to be able to provide opportunities for kids and families, and a building is very easy, maybe a traditional Y. Some of these things, are maybe don't have to.
there's
So
nothing.
we're just trying to add value in our understanding.
And glancing through that information we have here, is there anything that there will be, Jill, you mentioned, there will be no motorboats, of any kind. Okay, but there's 3 docks. So the north dock, it says existing on the print. That will have no motorboats on it either.
Nope. It's really just a confinement area. That we're using.
Yes, but the existing dock is is not part of that other confinement space.
Yeah. This one and this one really serves as kind of a confinement area, because one of the.
There's not another dock to the north of that one?
No.
Oh, that's Surprise Park's dock. Okay. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
we just know that there was some residents, of course, that are these kids going to be just kind of going all over. And so again, that was an area where we needed to define some stuff.
Yeah, and understand, and we're going to hear some of those questions here, I'm assuming.
Sure.
Understand that just the noise being one of those impact items, it can't be quantified. But the restaurant around the corner, the gentleman had to jump through hoops every month because 2 guitars on the deck till 11 o'clock, 1 weekend a month, 2 nights, 1 weekend a month, all these little details. And now you're suggesting changing the use of that to be totally different than a golf course.
Sure.
Totally. So if you would have a seat real quick, and anybody wants to come to the podium and comment on what they see or whatnot.
Sure, real quick,
Yes.
There is a pontoon boat dock on the plan. Is that not happening? I see it in C402.
I think that's
It's a water
pontoon for the
concept.
dock. I think it means it's specifying the actual type of dock, not the type of boat, I think.
Yeah.
What is it? What does it say on there, Heather?
Pontoon boat dock.
Pontoon boat dock.
I've never heard of a pontoon boat dock.
It's a floating
That's
dock.
a floating dock?
Yeah, it's the floating dock.
So it's
It's
a
on-
floating dock, not a
Floating
pontoon boat.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I asked that anybody wants to make comments, try to keep it to about 60 seconds. All these things will be recorded and made note of.
First of all,
Yeah, name and address.
Dave Abshire, 14605 Blaine, Cedar Lake. Couple questions. Is the YMC planning on purchasing the entire property from John Hayes?
That's
Phase
my,
1, 2, and 3?
that's my understanding.
Because I'm only hearing about zoning changes for 1 and 2 tonight. Am I hearing that correctly?
Well, the PUD would include all of it, correct?
Well, it depends. I mean, that's being explored. You heard
Okay.
staff tell you and talk with you about the withdrawal and the recommendation, perhaps if they withdraw the south side of 145th parcel, part of the parcel. But we haven't the application, so.
And,
See,
and,
so-
and
see,
and
so
your
that
question,
part-
and your question has a slippery slope. Go ahead.
Yes, and that's not clear. Okay, and I know, I think I can speak for most of us here. We'd like to see a detailed drawing similar to the C201 for phase 3, which is south side of 145th. So we can get a better understanding of exactly what we're going to be facing down the road.
Okay.
Okay,
All right. Thank you.
thank you.
Hi, I'm Donna Corey. I live at 14605 Bryan Street, Cedar Lake, Indiana. Once again, I'm going to bring it to you guys' attention. All the other YMCA camps that look like this, maybe even a little more rugged, are on a non-residential area. Where's the houses? Draw the little houses here. Draw the speedboats that come here. You ever been on the lake when it's 96 degrees? There's 200 motorboats out in that lake. A poker run that's a beneficial for cancer is gonna come zooming down to go to Butler. We live in a community. I heard a gentleman say, we just increased our household by 1,000 homes this year. The camp is wonderful. I went to a camp. I was a camp counselor, but I drove out in the middle of nowhere. I enjoyed, we told ghost stories. I was the swim coach. We did buoy things, like if you were the green buoy, you swim this far, with the blue buoy, you swim that far. You guys, on a hot day, there's like 50 boats anchored. I live in South Street subdivision. There's boats anchored everywhere now. Drinking, music, social media, everything's out there. So this nice, beautiful camp in the YMCA is a wonderful facility. I cannot, Mr. Buckmaster said it to the T. It's wonderful families, it's wonderful for kids. I feel our huge community where we live, that's getting better and better with schools and stuff like that, is just not the site for a camp. Put it out 100 miles away in the middle of nowhere where kids are scared, or you can tell a spooky story. You're going to be hearing people cussing, loud music, not from the camp, but from the people around it.
No.
I'm just stressing, please consider this. I would do Cedar Lake because I love the lake, I love the environment, I love my neighbors, I love being around here. I feel the camp should be where kids would love to be in a camp. They don't want to watch some woman in a bikini falling off because she's drunk on the boat right here. I mean, who's going to stop these boats?
Well, I believe you're right. The riparian rights,
Yes,
riparian
yes.
rights are 150 feet,
Yes.
and I understand. I understand.
A day, we're on our pier, we're all laying out, having a beer, enjoying. You've been hearing people's conversations from across the
I
lake.
understand.
Bugaboo's the band.
Yep.
You want to bring this beautiful place into a place that needs to be somewhere where kids can enjoy that. They live in the city, they live in Lake County, they live where it's crowded, they live with this. Let's go where I went to camp. I went to YMCA camp, Potawatomi, Camp Tecumseh. It's in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
That's the quality of a camp.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Erin Gluth. My address is 14530 Blaine. My only major concern is, first of all, I don't like I get the kids coming, I get the kids camp, but in C201, I see this family camp. Then when you turn the page to 401, you see all the little cabins. So is this a kids camp or is there going to be families camping here? That's my number one concern. So is that why the parking lot has to have big spaces for campers? I was just wondering why. Second of all, my other concern is, so if this is phase 1 and 2, do my neighbors have to come here for years to fight what's going to happen in phase 3? That's my concern. How long is it? We have to come every month, every time this is coming up, new zoning, new buildings, bigger pool. That's going to be a big concern for us, I think, for sure. I hope the board takes that into consideration.
Well, there's no doubt in our minds that we're making a 100-year decision in the details.
Ben Ram first, 14507 Lakeshore Drive. There's a reason that you've got zoning to begin with, so that you don't mix this stuff up. If this was a camp before, it'd be great, but to try to decide now that you want to put it right next to right next to where everybody lives, there's stuff to do. They don't normally mix well. This isn't going to mix as well either.
Thank you.
Colleen Sheben, 14625 Blaine Street. I have the same concerns, obviously, as been brought up. I also have brought up before the drainage in the back of our properties. It is a serious situation from the creek basically to my backyard. Sometimes it's flooded at all times. We also have a NIPSCO easement. The only way that the NIPSCO trucks get to our property is they come over the cart path and they work on everything back there, and they're back there quite often. So how is NIPSCO going to access the lines? And what is phase 3? I mean, I don't think that we can approve or change the zoning with not knowing what their intentions are. Like they said, we have to sit here and wonder for what and continually come back. And on top of it, that lake is very busy. It is no place for kids canoeing and out and about with those boats. It just isn't. So those are my concerns, along with many more, but I'll keep it short.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Colleen.
you.
Deborah Carey, 7205 West 145th Avenue. I just have a question. Did I hear today that if they do this, that they're planning on widening 145th Avenue?
I believe that's what
They're
was
proposing not
recommended.
to. They are proposing not to.
They're proposing not to.
They're proposing not to.
Okay, but if it has to be widened for this, what would the effect be then on the businesses that are right by malls?
Are we talking about a deep cell lane or the whole
Yeah.
street?
They would have to widen an entire street from their frontage. So this would actually be at the north side of 145th, south side of 145th, and then, well, I mean, it would be all the way down Morse too, technically. If
So I'm
phase
just
three is gonna
wondering
be
how that
part of it.
will, I mean, my car in front of my driveway right there just fits my car. My husband can't even put his truck because it would stick in the street. And
They
then what
wouldn't
about
widen
this?
in front of your, it's only in their property. So it's only they're required to widen in their frontage that they own.
That
So
they
it'd
own?
stop at you.
But
So then
the
it
cars
would-
could run right in the side of her garage.
You taper back. It would
Well, that's what I'm
just-
saying.
Yeah,
You
it
know, 'cause
wouldn't,
I'm
it wouldn't
right
be
there.
abrupt. It would,
I'm
they
like
would
3
taper
feet
back.
from, you know,
Yeah, they would taper. back.
Similar to 133rd by the Sportsman's Den. Is that
Okay.
turning lane
Yeah.
changes, it would
Okay.
have to
All
veer
right,
back
that's-
over.
yeah.
It would
Okay.
shrink back.
All right, that was my question. Thank you.
Thanks. Name and address for the record.
Well, here's probably moving wagons. I'll say
Hmm.
anyway.
I'm
Greg
good.
Parker, 14823 Moore Street. You guys have an obligation to vet all phases of this and what it could potentially be for the hereafter. I mean, you're obligated to the town, but you're obligated to the people that live there, the residents, before anything else. So changing any kind of zoning before you know what all the phases are gonna be and how the layout's gonna be, just irresponsible, and be requested to do that is irresponsible. And staff suggesting that they leave phase 3 out is irresponsible. So, let's use our heads.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Does anyone else have any comments?
For reader, 14616 Lee Street. It's a good idea, but a bad location. I moved there to be in a residential area with a golf course, which is quiet, not next door YMCA. That's it.
Thanks, Mr. Reader.
Joyce Gluck at 14527 Lee Street. And I just think that it's going to be so much noise and so much activity that it's just going to disrupt the whole entire subdivision. I think it should be in a place that's not in a residential area.
Thank you.
Dan Sheben, 14625 Blaine Street. I agree with everybody else. I think it's a great idea, great program, just a bad location. It's too much congestion in the area to begin with. That flow of traffic through that corner, you could widen the street with a turnout, whatever, center lane. It's just chaos. You get an emergency there. Emergency vehicles can't get through there. Fire trucks can't get through there, blocking one another. Watershed's another issue. Phase 3 needs to be etched in stone before anything goes forward. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Sheehan.
name's Dan Freeman, 14702 Bryan Street. I just have a concern about the boat docks we got going in there, about 200 foot out. What's the regulation on a hunting zone? You got the duck blinds, not that far. I mean, it's a little bit of ways, but what's the regulation on that as far as a children's camp area and hunting?
I don't know.
Setback, you can hunt down to the lake. No.
There is a distance from the shore, but I'm not.
Yeah, there is, Jerry. Yeah,
I don't know
where
right
it is
away
either.
what that
Yeah.
is. Yes, I thought riparian rights are 150 feet.
They're like 10 feet outside of my house, so
Yeah.
that's not true.
Because you're piercing them.
Here's how you do that.
That's exactly,
30 feet.
that's exactly why the hunting gets so close to the shore, because the docks, most people take them out.
Okay.
And most of the people that hunt out there, and the new people moving into town, they ask me, why do we let them hunt out there on the lake? We have no control over hunting on the lake. That's controlled by the state. And I've been told by the DNR, they don't shoot towards your houses, they shoot up in the air.
Okay, yeah, no, I was just curious with the whole children's park deal on Hunting Lake, you know, doesn't seem right. But all right, thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? All right. Mr. Buckmaster. Want to come back up? Again, you've heard some of the concerns and they're not a whole lot different than everything else that we've heard before. Any commissioners have any other comments? Mr. Kubiak.
I got one question, Mr. Osh's comment earlier. What is your answer to that question about phase 3? How will that be maintained?
But we're not going to keep it as greens unless we decide that there's some activity, you know, out there. But yeah, we of course, you know, if this goes through, we're part of this as well. So we're going to want to maintain it to the level that, you know, everyone can be proud of. So we don't want to let it overgrow. And
I mean, the weekly grass.
yeah,
I understand.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, if we're gonna be able to walk on it with 10-year-olds or, you know, so on, I mean, we're gonna have to make sure we keep it at a level that they can walk, you know, on it and have those trails.
Well, they do those trails at Lemon Lake County Park. They do those trails at Lemon Lake County Park, and they cut a swath, a walking path out into the perimeters of the park, and they let the rest of it grow up. So there's examples of how that goes and how it's done.
Yeah, probably should be part of this document at some point. Yeah.
Well,
Tim, it'll be in here.
when we're sending you out to enforce the
It'll be a long-term
weed
maintenance
ordinance,
consideration.
you got something to work with.
Yeah.
I got you. Also,
It'll be part of this.
prominent location visibly.
You read a lot of citations, Tim, for grass issues? Oh, yeah? Till the phone rings. Any of the gentlemen on the internet Zooming, any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, this is Jim Weezer. I have no other comments.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Oshin, anything? Okay.
Fair question.
What?
Are you coming back next month?
Yeah, we intend to answer these questions.
Does that, anybody else in the commission, building department, anybody have any comments?
They're not coming back in 2 weeks?
No.
They don't have anything on file yet. John. No application yet. They'll be back next month at your study session. And then,
yeah, that would.
Their plan is to advertise the public hearing.
February 3rd in the audience.
No one has anything else. You know, you mentioned the effects on the kids. Nobody disputes the positive effects on the kids. The effects, what we don't know. And again, this is a business decision on sustainability. And it's a 100-year, at least, business decision. Because the YMCA's they don't go away, they just get larger, or there's more of them. Timeline, and you understand our concerns about the timeline.
Yeah.
Also the all the pieces that need to be in the PUD document. The phase 3 thing obviously is a huge concern. Security, you know, Mr. Oshin, this is agricultural, not R1.
No, in fact,
This is our one.
I thought something said agricultural.
It did originally, Jerry, but we corrected.
Oh, okay, all right, all right. I mean, if this was going to be a R1 to B1 request, you'd have piles of things like this. This is not that request. And again, we have, like somebody stated, we have a responsibility of sustainability. And as you can see by the comments, that the desirability is a little on the low side. So again, this is a very, very important piece of property in town. It's the last one like it. So a total plan of some kind, certainly we'd have to see before we'd even consider anything like that. So, all right. Mr. Ocean, anything else?
I'll just circulate my comments.
Okay. All right. The other thing is, understand that these people are very helpful, but they're not designers. And sometimes we get, too much time invested in some of these things. So I just, I know, again, I know some of those people rather well, and they are very helpful, but it's gets to be too much sometimes. Helping out. So anyhow, I think the staff's comments are certainly huge if interpreted that way. I'm not sure a 55-foot climbing wall is, sticking up in the air is the best thing. I know that they make lateral climbing walls. But anyhow, those are my concerns right now at this point. And Mr. Everly, anything else?
No, sir.
No, sir. Okay. Jill, you good? Okay. Anyone else? Last call.
Nope.
No.
I think I'm good.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you, Mr. Buckmaster. All right. I know there was something else in here somewhere. Yes. Yes, page 6. Why don't we wait till everybody gets out of the building and we'll continue.
I just want to thank you guys for being so kind to me about this whole thing. I live right on.
Probably got a couple of my golf balls.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of unknowns, and that's what we're concerned about. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. There's some 2 update items here. One of them is discussion of disposing of cremated remains. We're not talking about humans, we're talking about animals. No, that is exactly typed correctly.
Great.
And huh?
I think we
I did.
understand that.
I said it's not humans.
Yeah.
Cremated remains. Yeah. Cremated remains.
Oh, gee.
Depends on how hot the furnace is, Tim. All depends. All right, disposal of cremated remains, just for those who know nothing about this. Down the street from Tasty Top, where the lift station is, there's a piece of property owned by some folks, and they came to the BZA a year or two ago requesting a cremated, animal created remains cemetery.
They were here too.
Yeah, they were.
Oh, yeah, they were here. You were here also. Well, evidently, according to sources, Mr. Everly's been on top of this along with Dave. They started to, they asked for 100% of something, and now they're just doing 50% because there's nothing in the state law that says they can't. So that's what this is about right now. Mr. Everly, would you like to continue on with your actions?
Yeah. Probably a couple of weeks ago, maybe a little more, that I received a complaint on my desk regarding the burying of animal remains, is what I was told. And I was kind of like Tim, I thought they were burying bodies of animals out on this site. I didn't know about the BZA action that had come before before you a year or two ago. So I did some research. Sarah was able to get me a copy of the BZA minutes and the action that denied them their request. So I sent a letter to the owner of the property advising them that they were in violation of the BZA action and that it needed to cease and desist. The owner's attorney then contacted me and advised me that they were not in violation of the BZA action because they weren't doing what they asked to be able to do, which, as I understand it, some of you folks know better than I, but they actually wanted to create a pet cemetery where they had benches and memorials and markers for the graves and the whole 9 yards. And that was denied. What they're doing is, he said, is burying the cremated remains that you mentioned. The attorney had, said that he had researched state law and not found any statute that prohibits that. So I had a brief conversation with David about it. I said, well, let me talk to David then. It's a little different perspective than what I was aware of. Dave said, just have John Reed, the attorney, contact David. And to date, I don't think he's done that.
Well, so at that BZA meeting or here, wherever it was, BZA, I guess.
It was here.
It was here also.
They were denied. What they wanted to do was not put markers up or anything. They wanted to dig a hole.
Yeah.
You bury that.
Throw everything in a hole and put a big, like 1/4-inch plate over it and have a bobcat sitting there so they can lift the plate off once a week and throw ashes in it.
Okay.
And then put the plate back.
And those plates were going to be dated as memorial markers for maybe a year, maybe 6 months.
That's a little different.
Yeah, but but they weren't gonna put, like dig a hole, put an urn in it and nothing like that.
They're digging a hole and putting urns
Oh,
in.
No.
No.
They're digging a hole and throwing ashes.
Yeah.
Right.
So go ahead, Rick.
So Mr. Wilkening is correct. I mean, to the best of my knowledge, I did a little internet research to find out if there were any environmental concerns from doing this kind of disposal, and there are not. It's not harmful to the earth, to the air, to the water supply. It evidently has no environmental impact. Nonetheless, I prepared a second letter that I think Sarah went out yesterday or today. I haven't heard that this is continuing, that the first person's still doing it. I've not heard that. But I did send a second letter out to the owner today, just reinforcing and reiterating what I said the first time, that my position is it's still in violation. It's potentially a commercial use of residential property. Because this is not somebody burying their own pet. This is a cremation that's happening someplace. I don't even believe it's in town. I believe it's out of town, at a crematory out of town. And they drive it down here to the property owner's property and they bury it. Jim took some pictures of it. He went out there and took some pictures of the excavation. So if we're considering it a commercial use of residential property and pursuing it that way, and I advise the property owner that if that's defensible, and I turn to Dave on that, because I think that's shaky ground, but Dave can advise it. In any case, it's a violation of the zoning ordinance, punishable by a fine of anywhere from $25 to $2,500 for every day they violate. Now, I haven't issued the fine yet because I only know of the one incident. So I told them not to do it, warning them a second time. If they continue to do it, then we'll start fining them, and we can fine them anywhere from $25 to $2,500.
Okay, so as you and I discussed in one of our many conversations, why do you know why? Does anyone know why they can't just put these ashes in a dumpster?
That's a great question. Chief Fisher and I actually called Scott Verdan and asked, thought he might have some information on the subject, and he didn't where animal remains are concerned. He said there is a specific statute that addresses how you dispose of human ashes, but not animal, and he was not aware of any reason why you couldn't dispose of them in the regular garbage. My son happens to be in management with Republic Services, so I had asked him right away. I said, do you know if this would be considered either special waste or hazardous waste? And he said, well, nobody's ever asked me this question before, but he said, to the best of my knowledge, you should be able to dispose of it in the trash. So I think what I need to do is find an animal. I'm guessing you must not be able to, because I don't know why the gentleman would go to the trouble of driving from where I think they're doing it down to this property and burying it. It would be up to the landlord.
Yeah, or their clients are telling them.
Well,
I'm sorry.
They could be telling their clients, the owners of the pets, that they're not going to dump it. That it would be
okay,
disposed of in a certain way.
I do know that Burns out on Broadway,
Okay.
it's this much if you want your ashes. It's this much, and they sprinkle it around in their grass on their little pet cemetery, because there are whole pets actually buried there with markers. That's what they do. But back to throwing it in the trash. I don't know how that can't be a good idea, other than they don't want to spend the money on a garbage dump.
And like I said, there's no environmental impact, so why wouldn't you be able to dispose of it in your regular trash?
Well, you're absolutely right. And getting a handle on this before somebody sets the panic to the people in Lake Dale, telling them that those ashes are heading their way in the rainwater. Go downstream. Is good. So I guess at this point, does anyone have a problem with directing Mr. Austin to draw up or begin to draw up some kind of ordinance for this item? Or is this what Mr. Everly is doing right now thorough enough for everybody?
I would think it's much more.
Before we start legislating,
Yeah.
let him do what he's doing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
If it becomes recurrent, I'm certain we're gonna hear about it.
One fine of 2,500,
We're
Rick.
gonna hear about
I
it.
like the 2,500.
Yeah.
Go big or go home.
Yeah.
You guys don't know, but next year they're gonna plan on doing haunted trail.
Well, when people catch wind of it, they're gonna assume it's humans. I mean, this could be like this could go way off the rails.
I just, the crematory that I know of is way back off the highway.
Right.
Tall grass, agricultural. So this is very odd, very odd. Now, the gentleman who stood there said they can run their furnaces 12 hours a day, and they have multiple furnaces. If you don't run the furnace at 1,800, 2,000 degrees, well, you're not getting all ashes. So, and it's a huge business. So perhaps just dumping it somewhere is a money thing. That's freaking out the neighbors.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, as long as everybody's, you still look haunted.
Well, this has been a really fun conversation. We should talk more about this.
You don't feel bad at all if a fish floats up that day. Okay.
You know, there may be some money in the marketing that earns.
Right.
Just saying.
I mean, if somebody had some, several acres, they could access, perhaps out on state line. That's just an avenue for piles and piles of ashes. But, anyway, I don't know anybody right offhand. But, anyway, the other item,
150 acres right over here off the 145th.
a haunted forest. Let it grow up. We got a haunted forest, phase 3. Tim, that's a good idea. Item number 2, Rose Garden Estates, the water main extension. If anybody, it's perhaps, I don't know, everybody saw that email. It started out with, how does that read, Don?
What's that?
From Madeline to Neil Simstead. You guys have to listen to this.
Well, yeah, they came back. We had them pothole it because we weren't entirely confident that they had the correct location of the water main. And I think it's under the sidewalk. And I think Neil told them right off the bat that we didn't want their roundabout connection. So they couldn't, long story short, they can't come directly into the Ledgestone main because there's also a culvert there. So they had to go under it, but they were going under it and then coming back around it. So they had a series of like 5 22-degree bends on it, which is stupid. And I think Neil told them no, and I think they submitted it again with several wider bends, but we still don't want that. So I think he responded today, and then I have a response ready to go for the easement, but I haven't sent it out. It'll go out tomorrow. So
Okay, and this is the water main where the final phase of Lennar meets up with the west side of Ledgestone.
yes, it's the loop.
I believe the person who sent it to Neil said, or Neil, yeah, there's 5 45s, but there only needs to be one. There only needs to be one, yeah.
Well, 'cause he wants it.
Essentially, they're trying to get away with
Cutting the road.
hiding the water main without-
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. 3 lefts.
Yeah.
Hey, Dave, 3 lefts make a right.
We would rather have them. Yeah, we'd rather have them. cut the road.
It's that and
Location.
Yeah.
the challenging area, but the whole point of the loop deal was to try to bore from the Lennar property across under the road and then tie into the water main. Without getting
So-
into the road.
Can we get any closer to an easement than the spike strip?
Yeah, we have an easement. We have easement documents through there. The spike strip itself is still not. I mean, that's gonna have to go through down.
This is no closer to being fixed than the last time we talked about it.
No, it is.
Yeah, this is like the fourth time.
Yeah.
But now Neil told them exactly what we want, the valve ball for 145. So we've given them the opportunity to
Do it that way, okay.
They just don't want to get in the
Should we,
road. We'd rather have them get in the road.
Should we consider withholding permits or stopping some action out there?
No,
Their attention?
I mean, we're getting there. It's not that anything's been delayed. They had to go out there and pothole it.
Plat's been approved. This
Yeah.
This is the final plat, it's posted surety.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the phase 2 surety, all this infrastructure. So it's just, yeah, we're fine.
Put the loop deal.
No, they're, I mean, they've not let it sit. Like
No.
they have in the past, they just keep doing wrong.
But they're doing something. They're doing something.
Every day, we're out there working.
Wrong.
Yeah.
They're not too water liking, basically. I mean, what they did would work, but it's just a nightmare.
Yeah. I mean, it stinks that Ledgestone surface just went down 2 months ago and they're gonna be cutting it open, but
We gotta rip open a brand new road to do this.
it's a better long-term solution.
And that's what they were trying to avoid, but at the end of the day, it's up to
Well, there was a few other comments on there, the curb, the road, all that stuff. So
Yeah. So.
we'll stay tuned. We'll stay tuned, Don.
Yeah.
We'll stay tuned. Does anybody have anything else?
Well, I have a separate question.
Yeah.
So now that Hanover's back on the Hanover High School is back in front of us, where do we leave off with the lighting? Is that off the map or is that ever completed? I just want to make your night.
I agreed. I agreed to close the file on that. because as Don Oliphant and I had discussed, there was a tremendous amount of confusion. And I'll leave it at that because I don't want to discuss it with Don anymore.
Okay, fair enough.
She's not done.
Of course she isn't.
Of course I'm not. But the new portion is gonna have lighting, correct?
The new portion will have lighting
Okay.
and,
So,
we'll see what they submit.
Will be compliant.
so,
It will comply.
It's only a parking lot.
So is the rest of it.
I'm just saying.
well, we
This is a
just
new
went through
parking
this
lot,
though with
though.
another
Yeah.
petitioner,
Not a retrofit.
What petitioner?
Sorry.
Lori.
Oh, Rory. Yeah, what's going on, with Rory,
Wait,
Tim?
no, wait, hold on, let's not skip around though.
Okay,
I'll be so
all right.
confused. So, but he has to, now that he's adding,
Yeah,
has to make his old correct.
or some modification that will meet the criteria. Like take a light fixture and like screw it to the wall and aim it down.
So wouldn't this be the time though to make that right?
He stood there and said he didn't want to.
Not Lori.
Middle school.
Oh, the high school. Oh, to make all the other stuff right. Oh, well, I think technically, and Mr. Rock, you can chime in. I'm going to make a legal comment. Once it's been signed off on and approved, I'm not sure legally we can go back and change it.
But we're doing that
Unless,
thing.
unless there's a mistake.
By whom? Us?
By us. We can require a change if we discover a mistake, but, you know, that's a slippery slope.
Well, it's a very slippery slope and,
How is it different though from what we're doing on 41?
Well, we were ahead of that by the decision made on the vacation of the public way.
What's the lighting issue?
On the lighting issue, we're still stuck with that right
yeah, I don't know that, Tim, have you been out to Rory's place to look at the lights?
now. No.
Okay, all right. So he's, I don't know what he's done, if anything.
I'm
So,
surprised you're not jumping all over this high school thing. I'm
the new lights will be correct. I feel I know where the oversight is. And
Well, call me crazy.
I hate to say it, but over my dead body, will it ever happen again?
I feel that if there's an opportunity to make a wrong right,
Yeah.
we should be taking advantage of that.
I also, now that you brought that up, there's 2 ball fields.
We can hear you.
Hey, you know how to whisper?
Not with a mask on, or halfway on.
Yeah. Those 2 new ball fields, they're gonna be across the street from Casey's. One of them is going to face, kind of face the road. And hopefully that won't be a problem. Okay. It will not be. It will not be. I did have a impromptu discussion with someone who was involved in that lighting project. And my hunches are exactly right. But I won't share them because, again, I agreed to close the file. Don and I talked about it for 10 months.
I miss hearing about it.
I don't.
Miss hearing about what? Oh, you miss hearing about
I
it?
do.
Okay, all right. You know, I'll fix you up, Huseman Street there. I'll fix you up with something, give you something to talk about.
I got a question.
Yes, Chuck.
Tim, have you heard anything about what's going on in Vermillion, the curve? Where it get flooded, you know, it floods and we had all that ice last week we got called out there. Yeah,
Well,
are we
you got a
gonna do
plan
something?
for it, right?
Do we have a plan or something? Because I guess what, I don't know, 2006, whatever, when they approved that one house, they said it wouldn't affect the,
He's gonna have it fixed by the end of the week.
I wouldn't go that far.
All right. Okay. Let me get back to the agenda here. Is there any other public?
Yeah, I got a question.
Hold on. Bob's talking. Yeah. If there's somebody waiting, I apologize. Go ahead, John.
When it comes to developers, now I'm confused. We can no longer ask them for green space or for parks in the subdivisions?
Yeah, subdivision control ordinance provides for open space, parkland, dedication.
I think it was the wording. What's right, the wording?
Can be the wording. I know that's a topic we're gonna be working on for clarity's sake.
Because that one email from you stated something about it's against the law or from
I didn't.
Mr. Eberly, maybe.
David didn't say that. What I had said was, to the best of my knowledge, is we can't require it. We can certainly ask, but I've been told for years that the state law changed and we can no longer require parkland dedication. But I believe David said that just recently that isn't the case.
That's true. I documented that.
Okay.
Put it in writing. Yeah, now, there are all kinds of overlapping things going on. You've got, heard it tonight, we sent a favorable recommendation to the council about park impact fees. There's a park impact fee component. That's an item that funds parks or open space. So that's an aspect. We have the opportunity, we have the right under the law in cases to impose reasonable conditions. If we think open space or some form of use of property is warranted, you can ask for that. Doesn't mean you'll get it, doesn't mean the petitioner or developer will follow through and give you that. They can abort the project if they decide, but that exists.
So then if they,
These are police powers.
if they come up with a good reason for not providing the park, but they want to, so we can ask them for money.
That's where the rub comes in. That's what
The money.
The fee in lieu of.
In lieu of, yeah.
Fee in lieu of. It's gonna be what you're gonna see soon on sidewalks.
Are we still working on that?
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up.
So
We're working on
it'll be a fee in lieu of.
I knew that.
I know Heather's been pushing it down. All right, keep her up to date.
We're working on it. Don's been doing some work on that legwork, and we're gonna craft a form of an ordinance for you. To your subdivision control ordinance.
Okay.
All these little pieces are gonna be coming together. Rick has a schedule, and I think I read it to be starting next month or March. All this stuff's coming in front of you over the next 60 to 90 days. And I think what, Rick, by Memorial Day, we're gonna be in pretty good shape.
Certainly with the zoning ordinance, and then follow that with the subdivision control ordinance provisions, yeah.
So it's all on track. It's all moving.
Okay.
We also, John, there's been some dialogue about the fee in lieu of formula that's up here or down here. So that'll get all dialed in too.
Yeah, I live way over on Carey Street next to the Crossroads section, and I don't get much information.
You're at the far end of the neighborhood, John.
I'm in West Creek County. Yeah, township.
I mentioned to Mr. Buckmaster sustainability, but Don, is there some way you could create a number? The YMCA doesn't pay any taxes. So is there a number that would be considered a impact? So it would help with making a business decision for the town? I mean,
Is that in your turf or does that belong to a plan?
That's probably not me. I mean, you can spin
Well,
that 100 different ways.
Well, no, you really can't. I mean, ideally, if it was R1 and there were R1 homes in there,
Yeah.
they would have a certain value. We know that they have a value of whatever.
Yeah.
Times how many homes,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. I mean, again,
But are you looking for one-time fee impacts like
I'm
park
talking about
impact
a five,
fees?
I'm talking about a
or
5-year
permit fees?
5-year impact.
So property taxes are a 5-year plan plus, all your permit fees that would come
Yes.
into the coffers and stuff like that. You
Yeah,
could do
kinda.
that and based on a density.
Yeah, kind of, because, I mean, this,
Yeah.
I mean, everything that would be entailed into that, is that a?
That partially goes back to what David was saying about that well.
When you read their proposed contract, everything on site is being used, no need for anything else.
Well, they were gonna drill another well too, on phase one, right?
Water,
No,
electric,
Yeah,
everything.
Yeah.
they were drilling
Phase
another
two,
well.
I
think
thought there
phase
was
two.
two there.
There's one there now. They're gonna drill a second one in phase two, I think.
I thought it said there was an existing one.
There is an existing that they're using. I think it's that the clubhouse uses.
That's all the way at the end of the, existing by the clubhouse, yeah.
That's the one they're gonna start with.
But you want to talk about, improvements to the town and what are you giving us? I mean, the well on phase three is potentially a major infrastructure element that needs to be discussed in some form or fashion.
And what if they're not the owners of phase three when the time for that comes?
You want something memorialized now.
That's part of the
Well,
problem.
that's what I'm getting at. There's so many pieces of this that will do nothing but haunt the next group of people that are sitting up here. The word impact is,
I mean, it's part of the glory of the PUD is the control it provides and the things that you can not ask for, but things you can include and not include.
yeah. I understand, but it seems as though they need to be pushed to.
Yeah,
I
you
mean-
certainly
I mean-
want it to be.
I mean, ultimately, what Rick and Jill originally saw was the least they can do. That has zero benefit to people we're responsible to represent.
It's
So-
probably actually the time to have that dialogue and begin that negotiation with the what. They're as far as they're gonna get, giving you detail. You've seen it defined.
You mean like the gives and the wants?
Sorry,
You mean like the gives and the wants?
that's what I talked about. Needs and wants.
Police, fire, and infrastructure is enough to keep me up at night.
What?
It keeps me up at night. It concerns me. Police, fire, and infrastructure.
Well,
Who's paying
the
for it?
word impact is just, it's priceless. I mean, it's everywhere.
Who's gonna have to make up the
Who's
difference in
paying
the
for it?
taxes now?
Well,
Lost. The
and
residents.
any caveat after that's all done comes back to the taxpayer.
So if there was 200 homes there,
That's, yeah.
that's $344 on the new park impact fee alone. 344,400. Just on the park impact fee. That we're gonna lose on.
I mean, this is an amenity of the community also, that we're working on collecting park impact fees on new homes to maintain this type of, I mean, this is a park type use.
But
This is a
residents can't use
private,
that unless they
no,
go to the line, right?
this is a private business.
Well,
It's
It's
not
a
part of the park.
it's a private business,
You
isn't
have
it?
to pay to get in. It's not free.
but it's all park type. Park type setting.
You know what? Maybe phase three is free. I don't know.
Camping?
No,
That's
walking
paid for.
past that
It's
are
walking
that are free to the public.
Until
I don't
it's-
know. I'm just, you said free and I just,
Until it's a campground. Nothing's free. in
well,
business.
let's not forget let's not forget the last campground that was proposed across from the Chamber Building. When all those people on that little piece of Lee Street showed up here.
God.
So I went from a campground to a marina. So, anyway, I guess overall, what are the benefits? I mean, we need to talk about this stuff. What are the benefits to the town of that being there? I mean, in the long run, they're minimal,
Well, you have to define what benefit.
Yeah.
Because
like impact.
Socially,
Tim's exactly
financially.
right about
Yeah.
that point. Having open space, preserved open space in a managed, manicured,
Yeah,
controlled,
Yeah.
systematic, organizational fashion has value.
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, my
It'd be
question,
different to each and every one of us if we would define that, but it has value. Preservation of open space.
But it's not going to be open space though. Temporarily it will.
Separate.
yeah, but I
Well,
think.
no,
I
there were
think-
there were cabins proposed originally.
Well, there was a,
Intense camping.
But the first phase is scrapped. They've gone back to square one and this is all new.
Right, it's new, but we have nothing for phase three.
Yeah.
Zero.
I think the question that, like Heather was getting at, or at least I would like to get at, is what is in it for us? You know, what's the benefit for us? I
Is it
think
all?
it's what is the
No,
benefit for us
nobody's
financially.
on, nobody's
Nobody's
on.
monetarily. I mean, because like I agree with Heather about police, fire, you know, EMTs, you name
Lots
it.
of
I
tax
mean,
money and expenses.
These,
right.
Where's the plus?
Mr. Buckmaster is in Northwest Indiana Times talking about the YMCA's that they propose here and propose there. And he uses the word sustainability over and over and over and over again. We have to consider that too. They're making a business decision and so do we. So anyway, is there any public comment? Anybody want to say anything?
Not after all.
Richie,
that.
no?
Yeah, no, they were.
Sorry. I thought maybe there were two of you waiting, and again, I apologize.
Yeah, you're 2 hours past my bedtime. man.
That seems to happen often.
Yeah, I know.
Where are you going now?
I'm going home. to get a
No,
glass
come
of
on.
vodka.
Go- Okay, all right. And he's honest about it.
What kind of vodka you got, John?
Tito's, that's good stuff.
You stayed up later than Jerry did, 2 weeks ago? You did.
I was, yeah, I had a long stretch. All right, well, I'm gonna call this, work session adjourned.